Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal Venerable, see playlist for other chapters and novels. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 1841, Take Responsibility. Pascal didn't quite know what happened. However, if Sheridan was really dead, it was a matter of great importance. According to the rules set by the wealthy clans on the floating islands, sub-branches, disciples along with the non-core disciples could die. But the killer was to be severely dealt with if one of the core disciples died. Due to Sheridan's high position in the Xie clan, the clan members wouldn't let his death slide so easily. Pascal had his eyes fixed upon Zen. "My name is Thad Luo," Zen said. "Did you kill Sheridan?" Pascal asked Zen. Pascal didn't know much about Sheridan. Although Sheridan had performed well in the core disciples of the wealthy clans, his efforts weren't enough to get Pascal's attention. Almost all the members of the wealthy clans were quite powerful. Sheridan was a low-rank true god, while Zen was only a proving godly warrior. The thought that a proving godly warrior killed a low-rank true god confused Pascal. "I killed Sheridan," Zen replied seriously. It wasn't Zen's intentions to run from the fact that he killed Sheridan. "Why did you kill him?" Pascal questioned. Elena quickly rushed to Zen's aid and said, "You ask him why. Don't you know the answer to it yourself?" "It's not his fault," Elena stated. Pascal had a rough idea as to what might have happened, even though he was not present there. Pascal was one of the most dignified disciples in the younger generations. He enjoyed a high position in the Han clan. All the elders of the Han clan respected him dearly. Although, his two younger sisters weren't afraid of confronting him from time to time. Elena angrily confronted Pascal but was unable to get a reaction from him. Laquisha intervened and said, "This is not the time to play the blame game." Everyone looked at Laquisha as she finished speaking. The finger marks on her face were long gone but her pretty little face was swollen. Pascal's heart was filled with sorrow when he saw Laquisha's face. He took out a bunch of emerald green grass from his sumeru space. In the middle of the grass was a blooming flower, and in the middle of the stamens was a small human face. The human face in the middle of the grass screamed as Pascal squashed and crushed it. Then he put it on Laquisha's face. This healed Laquisha's face and her swelling subsided. "I know, but someone has to take some responsibility for this," Pascal said with a serious tone. Pascal was quite neutral as far as Zen was concerned. Since he killed Sheridan, he should face the repercussions of his actions. As the core disciple of the Han clan, he always prioritized the interests of his clan. Laquisha gave her brother a stern look. She was aware of what Pascal was thinking and said, "Thad has fought for us. Wouldn't you take that into consideration? He shouldn't have killed Sheridan even if he protected you by doing so. Sheridan didn't deserve to die." Elena and Laquisha were both frightened yet composed. They both knew that this matter was so serious that the holy emperors of Xie clan and the Han clan could get involved in it. "You mean Thad should have just stood there and shouldn't have done anything?" Elena sneered. Kelsey, who was standing behind Elena, didn't say much. She knew that Pascal wasn't right, but since he was only her cousin, she didn't have the right to say anything to Pascal, face to face. The elders only look at the result and not the process. "The truth is that Sheridan was killed by Thad and Thad emerged unscathed from the whole situation," Pascal stated. "You should understand how detestable those people are," Elena argued. Suddenly Laquisha interrupted and said, "I will stand by Thad no matter what. If he dies, so will I," Laquisha stated with a firm tone, much to everyone's surprise. "What did you say?" Pascal asked with concern in his voice. Laquisha. Elena finally understood what was really going on with her sister. Ever since they returned from the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land, Elena felt that her sister had been acting weirdly. She stopped spending much time with her and mainly focused on martial arts, and thus, did quite good in the arena. Nothing caught Laquisha's eye except for cultivation, but every time they recalled their time in the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land, her eyes lit up when she mentioned Zen. Thus, Elena finally understood that her sister had fallen in love with Zen. Now that she had seen through Thad's identity, she was able to understand the reason why Laquisha said those words for Thad. However, Pascal didn't know much about the whole situation. LaQuisha's words came as an utter shock to him. Pascal was born in the Han clan. The importance LaQuisha had in his heart was much more than that of all the outer disciples added. Why would LaQuisha be willing to die for an outsider? He wondered. Besides, it was of the knowledge that this disciple had only entered the floating island of the Han clan for a very little amount of time. Kelsey felt a bit confused as well. Thad had gotten into such a big trouble because he had helped her and Elena. Pascal wanted to sacrifice Thad to help the Han clan get rid of the problem. Kelsey knew that Pascal was in the wrong here, but she didn't get such an intense reaction like LaQuisha did. Zen lay on the ground, wriggling his body so that his blood and primordial energy could flow in order to heal his wounds. He was impressed by LaQuisha's determination and strength. The current situation was beyond his expectation, and he could only wait and see how things would go on. You would go to such extreme in order to save a proving godly warrior? Pascal tried to persuade LaQuisha. Pascal, you know me well. You know that I won't budge from I said earlier, LaQuisha argued. It was a known fact that Pascal wasn't afraid of anyone or anything. He had once fought with a top-ranked true god in the Forbidden Land and came back, every part of his body broken. He even once disobeyed his father, the Holy Emperor of the Han clan, and went to an enormous Forbidden Land to save people. Although, he cared a lot for his two sisters. They meant the world to him. Therefore, LaQuisha's constant efforts stopped him from taking any decision. I can't deal with this myself. Let's ask the elders of our clan to make the decision, Pascal proclaimed, his gaze directed towards Kelsey. Kelsey's father was the current leader of the Han clan, Alfredo Han. At that night, Zen's injuries healed at a rapid pace. Grant, who had helped Zen get better, was quite surprised by how quickly he could recover. After Zen fully recovered, Grant tied him with a rope and sent him to the spiritual heart hall in the Han clan's floating island. Dozens of top-ranked true gods lined up in the spiritual heart hall, and on the floating platform at the top of the hall stood several warriors who were at the consummation of true god realm. Although these masters hid their breath, a strong aura was developing in the spiritual heart hall. All the masters fixed their eyes on Zen as he made his way through the hall. They were curious as to find out who was the outer disciple that was able to cause such a commotion by killing Sheridan. Zen felt quite nervous as he saw all those eyes were fixed on him. He still mustered the courage to look up. Sheridan was pretty close to the top rankings of the low-ranked true gods. How can this guy kill him, as he is only a proving godly warrior from the outside the floating island? When people present there heard this, their faces dropped with utter shock. Once warriors had obtained the godly way, the godly tile had raised their own cultivation too much. Therefore, it was quite hard for this proving godly warrior to kill someone with a godly tile. Even among the children of the wealthy clans on the floating islands, only few were able to cross the gap. People wouldn't believe it if they heard that a little fellow from outside the floating island could kill a low-ranked true god. Chapter 1842, Arrogance. The news about Sheridan's death had not spread yet. At the very least, no one from the Xie clan had come to the floating island of Han clan to seek revenge, for now. However, the Han clan still took the matter seriously. In fact, the Xie clan and the Lu clan, which ranked last, both didn't have high status nor much authority in the Time Sea. Although the two clans were both led by holy beings, they didn't have a strong foundation. Therefore, they were most likely to fall into the Time Sea if they were in a fierce competition. Generally speaking, the wealthy and powerful clans must be guarded by holy beings, but it didn't mean that a clan with holy beings was qualified to stay above the Time Sea. There were indeed some clans in the Divine Land that were not powerful enough but had a holy being in their families. Their comprehensive strength did not qualify them to enter the Time Sea, or to have a floating island to their name. Therefore, to enter the Time Sea did not depend on a holy being, but on the whole clan's comprehensive strength. Of course, the Han clan was not afraid of the Xie clan to the point that even the death of several core disciples was not a big deal for them. However, the Xie clan had good relationships with some powerful clans on the floating islands. Moreover, the Han clan should be responsible for the problem, and they would be in trouble if the Xie clan wanted to avenge Sheridan's death. On top of that, the Han clan had to get everything ready. However, Alfredo needed to figure something out first. "Please tell me your name," said Alfredo, who was in the middle of the hall. Despite his calm tone, there was an undeniable edge to his voice. It was like thunder that resounded in Zen's ears, which made him seem like he was the only god between heaven and earth. That was the aura that a god should have. In turn, Zen looked up at the clan leader in front of him. He had never seen such a character like the man before. He was so shocked that his facial muscles refused to move and make any expression at all. "Thad Luo," Zen replied flatly. Do you know why you are tied here? Alfredo asked with a smile. When Zen heard the question, he couldn't help having a sinking feeling in his chest. Apparently, the top masters of the rich clans in the Divine Land also liked to talk a load of garbage. The Han clan had tied him up and brought him to this place just because he had killed Sheridan. He didn't have to answer such a question again. Do the true gods present intend to set up a court trial? Zen wondered. I'm very curious. You are all the top martial artists in the Divine Land, while I am just a proving godly warrior. Why did you tie me up like this? Are you afraid that I will escape? He suddenly asked. The smile on Alfredo's face instantly froze at that moment. With the exception of the core disciples of the Han clan, almost all the other warriors who could step into the spiritual heart hall were top-ranked true gods. The spiritual heart hall was known for its oppressive surroundings. Not even ordinary true gods dared to voice out their opinions there. Thus, they were utterly shocked to see that Zen, who was just a proving godly warrior, was so fearless and was unaffected by the hall's strong aura. Now, Alfredo believed that Zen was indeed capable of killing Sheridan. How dare you be so rude to the master of the Han clan? A top-ranked true god nearby coldly shouted. His voice was so sharp that it was literally like a blade that flew straight towards Zen. The young proving godly warrior suddenly felt a dense stab of pain in his face and chest, especially in his ears. Puff! The sound pierced through his eardrums, and then 2 streams of blood gushed out of his left and right ears. It rendered him temporarily deaf, yet there wasn't a trace of fear on his face. Since you brought me here, you might want to ask me something. However, since you made me deaf, I'm afraid I can't hear your questions. He said simply. That top-ranked true god couldn't help losing his temper upon hearing Zen's words. But after careful consideration, he realized that Zen couldn't hear him at all because his eardrums were broken. Thus, he didn't know how to deal with him at all. On the contrary, Alfredo smiled again. He didn't mind Zen's rude remarks at all. He gently waved his hand, and then a green light spread throughout his palm. The green light expanded into a bigger ray of light and spread throughout the whole spiritual heart hall. When the light had touched Zen, he quickly felt a warm sensation that came from the surface of his body. At the same time, the pain in his ears was gone. His deaf ears were healed. You're the first one who dared to speak like this in the spiritual heart hall, Alfredo said slowly as his eyes locked with Zen's. Some people have been brave enough and righteous, not afraid of others' attacks, but some pretend to be calm and try to gain recognition. I wonder if you're the first type of people, or the second type. Before Zen could answer, Alfredo continued, but it doesn't matter. Please get up. Once he had finished speaking, he stretched out 2 fingers in the air and gently made a pinching motion. The ropes that bound Zen were immediately broken. He did feel relaxed, although he was surprised to see that Alfredo even helped him untie the ropes. As he got up and stretched, Alfredo added in a frank voice, I think you know why I summoned you to the spiritual heart hall today. A member of the Xie clan came to my floating island for stirring up trouble. He has been killed, but it is no big deal. There is no reason for our clan to feel pity for him. However, if the Xie clan comes over and bothers us about this matter, we aren't willing to bear the consequences. Although you're not a member of our clan, we decided to give you a chance. If you were me, what would you do about this situation? Alfredo, the master of the Han clan, even gave Zen a chance. Such was truly an unprecedented privilege. Had it been anyone else or any other true god who had killed Sheridan, the Han clan would immediately disown them and hand over the killer to the Xie clan without question. Therefore, all the senior leaders of the Han clan were astonished when they heard Alfredo's words. That was not how Alfredo dealt with things. Of course, Alfredo naturally didn't want to make the whole situation worse. However, his beloved daughter Kelsey had repeatedly told him how Zen had helped her and how he had offended the rich clans, disciples just because of her and Elena. That was why Zen had no choice but to fight and kill Sheridan in the end. Kelsey constantly begged the Han clan to protect Zen. To add to that, Pascal also told Alfredo that Laquisha would choose to die if the Han clan handed Zen over to the Xie clan and let them kill him. Once again, luck was on Zen's side as the core disciples of the Han clan tried to protect him to such extents. All of those reasons caused Alfredo to be quite interested in Zen now. He wanted to see what on earth Zen was capable of, and whether he was qualified or not. In turn, Zen took a deep breath and looked around with his piercing gaze. To be honest, if the Han clan allowed the Xie clan to take me away, I'm afraid that it might be the stupidest thing you'd do since the beginning of the divine era, he said slowly. Such bold words from a mere proving godly warrior shocked the senior leaders of the Han clan to their core. On the left side of Alfredo, a middle-aged man in red armor burst into laughter. "Little guy, are you crazy? Do you just overrate yourself? You may be talented, but we have a lot of talented disciples. There is no lack of such outsiders like you in our clan. It's a good thing to be confident, but it's ridiculous to be arrogant." The others present nodded in agreement. They all thought that Zen was wildly arrogant as well. They had lived for so many divine eras, but they had never seen such a reckless talent like him. The smile on Alfredo's face was completely gone now. Everyone was bound to dislike an arrogant person. "Maybe I was wrong. You don't belong to the two types of people I just mentioned. You're a conceited warrior," he said coldly. In Zen's defense, he did know that his words would annoy them, but he didn't want to die. He wanted to have a chance to prove his worth. He believed that he was valuable enough for the Han clan to protect him. Even if both Elena and Laquisha might take actions, he didn't know if that would stop the Han clan's decision. He could guess that the reason Alfredo wanted to see him was because he wanted to determine if he was worth it or not. Just then, a gentle voice rang throughout the hall and said, "I believe handing this young man over to the Xie clan must be the stupidest thing for the Han clan to do ever since the beginning of the divine era." The owner of the voice was none other than Joy, the demi-holy being of the Han clan. When her words had died down, she stepped fully inside the spiritual heart hall. She glanced at Zen with a smile, and then said, "I wonder why you didn't go to the Arena of Legends today. Now, it turns out that you came here to rest. Come back with me right now." Chapter 1843, Purpose. Zen had been personally permitted by Joy to be a part of the Purple Soul Hall. But after May brought him in, he hadn't talked with Joy much. It was as if she only viewed Zen as an ordinary disciple who had entered her hall, so she did not bother contacting him. In fact, those who were familiar with Joy were well aware that her restriction of only being able to recruit disciples in possession of the purple power body meant that they were not as talented as the disciples of other holy beings. They were far weaker in strength and power and often left unnoticed. Zen was someone who had been recommended by the heavenly Han house. A talent like him would be regarded with interest and attention even if he were to enter the Holy Emperor city. But Joy turned a blind eye to Zen as soon as he entered the Purple Soul Hall, which was rather unusual considering his potential. What Zen did not know was that Joy had been a silent spectator to his activities all this time. She had noticed Zen from the moment he stepped into the Arena of Legends for the first time, how he had encouraged the people around him, to the time when he won all the battles in the Arena of Legends. Joy had kept a constant eye on him throughout his endeavors. Others might be unable to watch what was inside the Jade Wall of Legends, but this was not a problem for Joy. She had been a witness to almost all of Zen's battles. As a demi-holy being, it was no doubt that Joy had a keen eye. She knew that Zen did not possess the purple power body, but he was capable of displaying the purple or a godly way through a special magic weapon instead. As for what magic weapon it was, even Joy, who was in possession of a wide range of knowledge, had not yet realized. But what surprised Joy was Zen's actual strength. He had won more than 30 times in a row ever since he entered the Arena of Legends. He easily won in the face of the proving godly warriors. The chasm between him and his opponents was huge, and Joy could not wrap her head around the phenomenon. It was as if a low-ranked true god had fought the proving godly warriors. The gap in strength could not be so easily overlooked. Joy was unaware of Zen's true hidden strength because the proving godly warriors were yet to test his limits. Zen, on the other hand, was almost dismissive in his behavior toward them. He seemed as if he did not even take them very seriously. Zen's words were indeed arrogant and even Pascal wouldn't dare say those words. But Joy showing up was a sign that the demi-holy being of Han clan was on Zen's side. "Master," Zen said, bowing to Joy. He did not know much about Joy and had hardly expected her to turn up. Although Joy was no master of his, he still referred to her as such because of the unspoken manners and rules of the Purple Soul Hall. "Come back with me," Joy said in response, a small smile playing on her lips. Her request was short, but Zen was still moved. No wonder the female disciples of the Purple Soul Hall were so reluctant to leave. It was true that they did not want to give up the privilege of the floating island of Han clan, but perhaps it was more likely that they did not want to leave their master. "Wait a second," Alfredo stepped in between, interrupting them. However, as soon as he spoke, a wisp of purple smoke rose from the hall. Simultaneously, a flash of purple light flickered in Joy's eyes. The purple smoke spiraled up bit by bit. 49 rays of purple smoke transformed into a divine array, out of which an obscure killing intent was unfurled. This killing intent was not heavy but effortlessly exuded terror. "Last time it was you who convinced the Holy Emperor to cause trouble for Purple Soul Hall, but I still endured it. You almost seem to forget who I am and the difference in our statures. Even if the Holy Emperor is present here, I have every right to bring my disciple back, Joy retorted scathingly. The faint killing intent quietly unrolled in spiritual heart hall. Zen could feel the killing intent, but he did not know how terrible it was. He only knew of its power from the expressions of the top-ranked true gods, the consummate true gods, and Alfredo. These true gods who had looked as calm as water just a moment ago now turned as pale as paper. Their eyes betrayed the fear they felt. They knew that behind Joy's radiant smile was a blistering fury. The consequences of angering a demi-holy being would be unimaginable for the Han clan members of the floating island. Alfredo, even as the master of the clan, turned stiff and wary. His voice seemed reluctant to come out of his throat. Demi-holy being, please don't be vexed. It's just that this boy has killed a direct descendant of the Xie clan. If the Xie clan insists on prosecuting him, I would find myself in a quandary. Joy had a clear understanding of what was going on even before she arrived. She smirked and the killing intent in the dark surged even more. The senior members of the Han clan grew more nervous as it surrounded them. So what was the direct descendant's cultivation base? She asked. He was a low-ranked true god, ranking in the top 40 in the arena of legends, Alfredo replied honestly. Even though he was the master of the Han clan, his voice cracked when speaking to her. He had offended Joy before. But because the Holy Emperor himself had made a decision last time, Joy had to swallow her anger and bite her tongue. Alfredo knew that she held a grudge against him already. If she unleashed herself on him this time, he would land himself in big trouble. He was a low-ranked true god and was killed by a proving godly warrior from my Purple Soul Hall. He was no better than a loser. You don't need to explain anything to them. If Xie clan comes to you, you can tell them to come to me for answers, Joy said coldly. Alfredo was helpless. If Xie clan went to argue with Han clan, they would no doubt target him in the end. What Joy said was entirely unreasonable, but there was nothing he could do about it. Joy then looked Zen up and down indifferently. She stretched out her soft and white hand and beckoned him closer. A streak of purple smoke rose and enveloped Zen. Let's go, she uttered. Zen immediately saw spirals in front of him and involuntarily took a circle. In the next moment, he had returned to the Purple Soul Hall. Once a warrior reached the consummation of true god realm, they could teleport at will. For a demi-holy being like Joy, it was much faster to teleport. The center of the Purple Soul Hall was deathly quiet. Above the hall, 6 giant candles were arranged into position. The soft light cast 6 shadows in stark relief at different angles under Zen's feet. Joy leaned against the broad chair placed at the head of the hall. Her pleated skirt shone in the candle light, outlining her defined curves. When she next spoke, her voice sounded indifferent. Hurt the mid-ranked true god at the 5th place, Langston Lang, and killed the low-ranked true god at the 40th place, Sheridan. You are much more powerful than I thought. She stared fixedly at Zen before continuing, tell me, what secret are you harboring? Being looked at by a demi-holy being like this, Zen sensed a sharp chill rise up on his back, as if he were naked and her eyes were piercing through every inch of him. Zen's secret must never be let out to outsiders. Even Laquisha and Elena couldn't be fully trusted, which was why Zen had disguised himself and avoided them. It was impossible for Zen to tell his secret even when confronted by the demi-holy being, Joy. He was under great pressure when facing such a strong warrior. He cleared his throat unwillingly. When I was a child, I received a great opportunity, so I cultivated from the level of an ordinary divine citizen. Zen was merely making something up when Joy waved her hand at him intently. An invisible force spread out and he found himself unable to continue. You are quite powerful, and you also seem far too familiar with making up lies. You must have lied a lot, correct? Joy's eyebrows curved up like a new moon as she stared at Zen and clicked her tongue. Although Zen had been exposed straight away, he remained calm. Everyone has their secrets. If I end up revealing mine to others, it would be like losing my soul. I will not survive it. I hope you can understand. Look at you, why are you so nervous? I didn't say that I won't understand. Joy smiled at his reply. If she truly wanted to fish out Zen's secret, it would not be difficult for her. However, as a demi-holy being, Joy tended to agree with Zen. All had their secrets and hidden agendas. If one forced others to disclose them, it could have unnecessary and dangerous consequences. However, Joy had not asked for a secret. Joy continued, if you want to keep your secret, you need to do something else in order to prove yourself. Joy would not offend Alfredo over a proving godly warrior for no reason. Since she had taken such pains to take Zen away, she must have a purpose in mind. What do I have to do? Zen asked, his gaze full of curiosity. Chapter 1844, An Impossible Task. In Zen's eyes, a demi-holy being was almost an omnipotent existence. What does she want from me? He thought. Last time, you motivated the disciples of our Purple Soul Hall, and their rankings have risen significantly in the arena of legends, but it is far from enough. Joy said lightly. The Purple Soul Hall was highly important to Joy. Thus, how could she bear to expel those disciples? Everyone had their own ambitions, and a demi-holy being was no different. It's far from enough, but what does it have to do with me? Asked Zen. There were more than 30,000 people in the Purple Soul Hall. It was too many of them. Thus, she couldn't rely on Zen alone to increase the Purple Soul Hall's total number of points, could she? He did earn a lot of points recently, but it was just a drop in the bucket compared to the entirety of the Purple Soul Hall. I want you to earn more points. Joy gazed at Zen and said with a smile. More? How many? He asked incredulously. He was clearly quite speechless. He never expected that his speculation would turn out right. Perhaps, Joy really planned to pin all her hopes on him to turn the tables around. You need to earn 1,200,000 points more. That is equivalent to every Purple Soul Hall disciple earning 40 points on average. If that still doesn't work, then I will have no choice but to eliminate the 10% of the disciples who are ranked at the bottom, Joy calculated as her lips curved up into a charming smile. Zen almost choked in disbelief as he heard the number. He paused for a while before he repeated, 1,200,000 points. To his surprise, Joy replied flatly, yes. Is it difficult? Back then, I earned 3 million points in the arena of legends. What was your cultivation level at that time, Master? Asked Zen. A consummate true god. There was a pause. Zen couldn't help but roll his eyes at her. Of course, the true gods at the consummate level naturally had many, many points. They had so much that the top masters recorded on the Jade Wall of Legends had over 1 million points. It was safe to say that the several consummate true gods from some clans could directly determine their clans' rankings. However, there were only a few consummate true gods in each clan. Unlike the battles of ordinary true gods, which were usually held 3 times every month, a battle between consummate true gods often drew great attention. So much that sometimes, there wasn't a single fight between consummate true gods once every few years. Since the points of powerful warriors at the top rarely had significant changes, many clans focused on the true gods at the bottom to improve the overall points. It was a more practical and stable way to keep their rankings. After all, some consummate true gods might lose hundreds of thousands or even over 1 million points in one battle. Defeating a proving godly warrior in a battle only earns me several hundred points, and that already includes the extra points as a reward. Wouldn't it be ridiculous to ask me to earn so many points? Zen asked calmly. He felt much more relaxed now in front of Joy, now that he had discovered that she was easy to get along with. It was true that he could win several hundred points in a match, which included the points that rewarded by consecutive wins. Without those extra points, he would have only ended up with 3 points in the next fight, and that was if he won. A lost match meant a great reduction of his points, and even if he won all the time, he couldn't get the 1,200,000 points Joy asked of him. Such a request was equivalent to asking an ant to carry a mountain. It was impossible. However, Joy continued, you don't fully understand the rules of the arena of legends. Upon hearing her words, he shrugged his shoulders in agreement and sat down on the stairs to listen attentively. By this time, after you've won a series of consecutive matches, your points have already surpassed that of the proving godly warrior who was ranked first. In fact, you can apply for the battles at the level of low-rank true gods to compete with the ones at a higher level, she said. It was known that the rules of the Jade Wall of Legends were relatively complicated. Although Zen somehow understood them, almost all his knowledge about the rules came from Madame Moon. Thus, he hadn't thoroughly comprehended them yet. He couldn't believe his ears. To compete with the ones at a higher level? You want me to challenge those true gods who are a level higher than I am? Yes, and not only that, you also need to maintain your winning streak, Joy finished with a smile. It was immensely difficult to earn points in the arena of legends, but the rewards for consecutive wins were quite great. It was just like rolling a snowball. The more consecutive wins one had, the more points one could get. Zen thought deeply. He could steadily earn a lot of points in the battles against proving godly warriors, but the points earned from battles fighting warriors at the same level were far from enough, even with the extra reward included. However, the battles against warriors at higher levels was a different story. The basic reward for a proving godly warrior to win against a low-rank true god was as many as 100 points. And since it was very difficult for a proven godly warrior to defeat a low-ranked true god, the reward for consecutive wins was even greater. 2 consecutive wins had an additional prize of over 1,000 points, and winning 3 times in a row had an additional prize of 2,000 points. If one managed to repeatedly stack up such numbers, they would clearly have a staggering number of points. Obviously, such a reward meant more than hard work. It was very difficult for a proven godly warrior to have consecutive wins in the battles challenging low-ranked true gods. Even a demi-holy being like Joy had been defeated by her opponents after winning 4 battles in a row back when she had challenged low-ranked true gods as a proven godly warrior. In the records of the Divine Land, there were a few holy beings who had achieved an impressive number of consecutive wins. For example, the Holy Emperor of the Han clan had managed to snag 16 consecutive wins, and as a proven godly warrior, he had accumulated more than 100,000 points in one go. It had greatly shocked many powerful clans at that time. However, that wasn't even the most surprising. There had once been a genius who had completed 27 consecutive wins, and accumulated 390,000 points in one go. Even some of the extremely powerful top-ranked true gods, who had been working hard in the arena of legends, could only gain about 200,000 points. Consecutive wins could actually make a big difference. However, one could dissect how difficult it was to achieve so many consecutive wins. As one accumulated more points, they would also be faced with more powerful true gods. Thus, it was almost impossible for a proven godly warrior to win all the time by relying only on their cultivation. You defeated Keenan and killed Sheridan. They are the best of the low-ranked true gods. I believe it is possible for you to achieve that goal with your strength, Joy said and smiled. So that explains it, Zen thought as realization hit him. The reward for competing with those beyond his level, plus the additional reward for consecutive wins. When combined together, he thought that he did have the potential to accumulate a lot of points in a short time. Points were very important to him. Moreover, he also wanted to break through to become a true god. Furthermore, he was also determined to get the reward from the Han clan. He needed the mud, which was in that treasure that the Han clan offered as a reward. More importantly, he needed enough points to go to Everest Spirit Mountain. To top all of those off, he also had to prove his worth to Joy and the Han clan, since Joy was now protecting him. I see, he said and nodded. Give me your jade token, Joy suddenly said and reached out to him. His hands fished out the jade token from his pocket and handed it to her. Then, Joy gently stroked the token with her slender fingers until it glowed green. She gave it back to him and said, now, when you go into the arena of legends, your opponent can't find out your name. In other words, it is like you're anonymous. Really? Can it even work in this way? He asked. Curiosity filled his mind as he took back his jade token. It's normal. Some warriors from the rich and powerful clans would do so when they don't want to attract attention. But the anonymous function only works on your opponents that challenge you. Once you lose, your name will appear on the ranking list, Joy said. And, from now on, you can enter the arena of legends from here, she added. As soon as she was done, she clapped her hands. The hall began to vibrate slightly as the Jade Wall of Legends, which was 30 feet tall, rose from the ground. This Jade Wall of Legends was rather small compared to an ordinary one, but it was possible for 3 people to enter the arena of legends at the same time. Joy was a little tired after she had finished her arrangement. A yawn escaped her lips, then she said, you can enter the arena of legends at any time. I've already helped you apply for the battles to challenge warriors at a higher level. I'll have to rest first. Once she was done speaking, her body emanated a purple mist that surrounded her. The mist soon dissipated, and so did she. I can't believe a demi-holy being would feel sleepy. She must be acting, it's too obvious, Zen thought as he pursed his lips. After a few moments, he walked towards the jade wall and inserted his own jade token into it. Buzz! The jade wall of legends started to tremble, and some information about him began to appear on it. Just as what Joy had said after she helped him to become anonymous, his name was blurry, and there was no way for anyone to know it. Chapter 1845, so popular. A gentle light from the jade wall of legends enveloped Zen and everything around him faded away. He had entered the jade wall of legends. This time, however, he wasn't sent to the battlefield directly. Instead, he came upon an empty room. What happened? Zen looked around in confusion. In the past, he would always directly enter the battlefield with an opponent already pitted against him. Why then did he come upon this empty room? He walked around and noticed strange divine textures carved on the walls. As he looked around, he also found a small door tucked away on one side of the room. Zen made his way towards the door and pushed it open. As soon as he did, a ray of light hit his eyes and momentarily blinded him. At the same time, he heard a loud noise. So noisy, he murmured as he opened his eyes. Outside was a huge annular space where small doors were densely packed in a spiral, forming a sort of staircase. In this space were countless low-rank true gods. Some in small groups and barking loudly, others whispering to each other. There were so many of them which made the place such a mess. Where am I? Zen asked himself in astonishment. Oh, a proving godly warrior has come in, a young man wearing a golden crown bedecked with emeralds remarked. The young man had been standing beside Zen and was now gazing at him with surprise. He sized Zen up and his expression became even weirder. Wow, he is an anonymous man, he exclaimed loudly. His voice caught the attention of the other low-rank true gods who also then stared at Zen. With Joy's help, Zen was able to hide not just his name, but also his appearance. Anyone who tried to look at him would end up seeing a blurred face and nothing more. He really is a proving godly warrior. Is he going to challenge higher-leveled warriors? Which powerful clan is he from? How can he have the confidence to challenge those of a higher level than him? Challenging warriors of a higher level wasn't rare in the arena of legends. However, they only saw low-rank true gods challenge mid-rank true gods, mid-rank true gods challenge the top-rank ones and top-rank ones challenged consummate true gods. The difference in strength between a low-rank true god and a mid-rank one wasn't very big, so there were a lot of warriors at the low-rank true god level who challenged those a level higher than them. It was much more difficult for a mid-rank true god to go against a top-rank true god since the latter could fly and thus had an advantage. The same could be said for a top-rank true god who went against a consummate true god. Even if the former could fly, he would still be unable to traverse through space, thus making it hard to defeat the latter. There were still cases of these challenges though. Proving godly warriors, however, were different. They did not possess godly tiles which would make it difficult for them to challenge a higher-leveled warrior. Many wealthy clans had talents who could participate in the battle of challenging higher-leveled warriors but did not necessarily perform that well. This was the main reason why Zen garnered such significant attentions when he entered. Fortunately, he was used to the attention. Where am I? He asked calmly. The young man next to him smiled. This must be your first time in the Hall of True Gods. Proving godly warriors aren't really qualified to enter this place. The Jade Wall of Legends was undoubtedly very special. It contained independent spaces of different sizes. These spaces were close to infinite, with some even more obscure than others. As the lowest-leveled warrior in the floating island, a proving godly warrior did not have the qualifications to enter the Hall of True Gods. They could only passively search for their own opponents. However, a low-rank true god was different. Each low-rank true god had their own independent room that allowed them to find a random opponent or choose a specific warrior to go up against. Zen saw these rooms spiral up in the air. The height of each one represented the ranking of the low-rank true god who owned it. When the ranking changed, so did the position of the room. The higher it was, the stronger the true god. The young man's explanation clarified things for Zen. Joy might have neglected to explain these things to him because she was just so used to it since she was a resident of the floating island. I have just entered the Hall of True Gods and lost my match. Should I challenge you? What do you think? The young man asked with a smile. He also cleared his throat after speaking, as an attempt to cover up his embarrassment. Don't listen to him. Come and challenge me. I've only been a true god for less than 3 months. My godly tile has just reached the preliminary stage and my entire foundation is unstable. I'm the one most suitable to be your first opponent. Quote. It seemed Zen had become quite popular with these low-rank true gods. He could see why though. Whether he was a genius of a wealthy clan or not, in the end, Zen was a mere proving godly warrior. There were a handful of proving godly warriors who had created miracles in the past, but they only appeared once in several divine eras. Most proving godly warriors had extraordinary strength, but the absence of a godly tile greatly limited their power. They were still nothing compared to a low-rank true god. Right now, these true gods regarded Zen as a weak lamb whom they could hopefully earn a lot of points from. Feeling the enthusiasm of these low-rank true gods, Zen smiled and turned to the young man beside him. In that case, I accept your challenge, though you will have to tell me how to do so. He still wasn't that familiar with the rules here and there might be a formality needed in order to accept a challenge. The young man was visibly pleased and excited upon hearing Zen's acceptance. Splendid. All you'll have to do is go back to your room and activate the divine textures on the wall. Zen nodded and quickly went back to his room while the young man also returned to his. All the other low-rank true gods could only look on in disappointment and envy as a potential lamb was taken from their grasp. Lucky Hardy, it's all right, since this proving godly warrior has already participated in such a battle, he won't be satisfied with just one battle, right? We still have a chance. That's right, we can challenge that guy after his battle with Hardy is over. These low-rank true gods all thought that Zen would be easy to defeat and naturally didn't want to give up this opportunity. However, after a few discussions, they suddenly became silent. They looked at each other, with vigilance on their faces. Because of this anonymous proving godly warrior, they became competitors now. Meanwhile, Zen was back inside his room and he followed the young man's instructions. He was quickly able to figure out how to use the divine textures on the wall. All he needed to do was to use the room number and he would be able to challenge anyone in the Hall of True Gods at any time. As he was fumbling around, one of the divine textures flashed. He touched it and immediately understood the information contained within. The young man had already challenged him. Hardy Chin from the Chin clan. He had 193 points and was ranked after 1,900,000. Such meager points were shabby for Zen but were, in fact, normal for someone like Hardy who had just stepped into the Hall of True Gods and lost a battle. Zen quickly accepted the challenge and the scenery around him changed once again. He finally stepped into the arena of legends. Hardy, his opponent, stood across from him. Although it's unfair to challenge you with my cultivation level, you accepted the challenge. Therefore, you yourself have chosen to participate in this battle. Surely you're well prepared, right? Zen stretched his arms and legs, giving Hardy a smile. Of course. Then I won't be mercy, Hardy said, giving Zen a polite bow. All wealthy clans paid great attention to points and rankings. As a direct disciple of the Chin clan, the young man was under a lot of pressure and he was eager to win a battle in order to prove his strength. After bowing, a great power suddenly surged out from Hardy's body. He looked up and his eyes shone with confidence that he would definitely win. Chapter 1846, Badgering. After summoning his momentum from his inner world, a bright white light suddenly burst forth around Hardy's right hand. This bright light slowly coalesced and formed itself into a milky white blade. The destruction godly way is practiced by very few people. My personality is not very suitable for it but it seems I have a bit of talent on it, Hardy explained modestly. His explanation rendered Zen speechless. This Chin clan disciple was quite interesting. His manner of speaking was so fastidious despite the fact that he was just about to fight an enemy. Zen was so close to just attacking him immediately to catch him off guard but he restrained himself. He didn't want to gain his victory through trickery. His goal was 1,200,000 points. Earning so many points couldn't be done through mere deception. If he was being honest, Zen didn't really feel that his task was realistic. It was true that he defeated Sheridan who had been ranked 40th but that was through a sucker punch using the strength source. Had Sheridan been at full strength then the battle might have turned out differently. However, he was quite confident in defeating Hardy. Still though, after winning consecutive victories, Zen's points and ranking would quickly rise. That meant fighting with more and more powerful opponents which was going to be challenging for him. If those true gods didn't underestimate him then he might have a slimmer chance of defeating them. He also couldn't use the emotion closing godly way which was his most powerful trump card. Up to now, Zen had no idea how he was going to face against those true gods. Joy was the one who arranged for him to take part in this event. He could only hope that she prepared something for him. Right now, Zen had no choice but to adapt in his fights and try his best to win consecutive victories. Zen waited patiently for Hardy to get ready. Whoosh! The milky white blade had condensed in Hardy's hand and was almost like an extension of his arm. As the blade radiance completely congealed into shape, it continued to emit countless tiny beams of light and made it look illusory. From this blade radiance alone, Zen felt a strong force of destruction. A godly way activated through the godly tile is able to reach a higher level. Hardy is one of the weakest low-rank true gods but his strength cannot be underestimated. Zen surmised to himself. I'm ready now, Hardy said with a smile. What about you? Where are your weapons? Show me your weapons. As a low-rank true god, Hardy felt that this battle was truly unfair to his opponent. Now that he had condensed his destruction blade using the destruction godly way, he waited for Zen to do the same. He didn't want to feel apologetic and thus urged Zen to show his weapons. The disciples of the large clans on the floating islands were quite different. Most were arrogant and outrageous but this one in front of Zen was unusually upright. The destructive power of the blade radiance in Hardy's hand was formidable but not anything Zen couldn't deal with. He didn't need to use the great weighty sword in this fight but, Since Hardy was being so polite, he didn't really want to offend him by saying he wasn't qualified to let Zen show his weapon. There's no need. Let's just get started, Zen said, taking a small step forward. All of a sudden, an unparalleled power exploded from the tip of his right foot. Boom! There was a muffled thud as Zen left a small hole on the ground before rushing towards Hardy at an extremely fast rate. Okay, Hardy replied in an amusingly gentle tone. However, the sight of the small hole Zen caused on the ground stunned him momentarily. The ground in the arena of legends was illusory, but it was still extremely hard to break it with physical strength. Zen managed to tear a hole just with a light tap of his toe. How did he manage to do that? This is bad, Hardy thought to himself, but it was already too late. Zen was already dashing towards him at an extremely fast speed. Hardy was by no means weak. Given the chance of being baptized by the arena of legends, he might as well have a good ranking among the low-rank true gods. The only problem was that he had never explored a forbidden land nor experienced a life-or-death fight. The sight of Zen approaching him at breakneck speed left him feeling a bit flustered. Destruction strike. In a moment of desperation, Hardy hurriedly brandished his blade radiance. If he practiced the destruction godly way to a high level, then his power would greatly increase. It was a pity that he had just recently grasped the godly way, and with Zen's redemption armor shielding him, his attacks posed little threat to the proving godly warrior. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Zen's body was nimble and easily dodged the blade radiance sent towards him. The numerous beams emitted by the large blade radiance were also ignored by him. These tiny beams were no joke, as they also erupted a lot of power. However, they were still no match against Zen's redemption armor. What? Surprise was written all over Hardy's face. Those small beams were purposely spread out by him as part of his strategy. As long as he unleashed the destruction godly way, the beams could form a natural barrier that could protect him. Anyone who ventured too close would have to go through these powerful beams. Even an ordinary low-rank true god would find it difficult to resist. Yet here was Zen directly smashing the blade radiance with his body effortlessly. This scene made Hardy even more anxious. He waved the blade radiance in his hand even more fiercely, and tiny beams flew around him once again. Zen, on the other hand, was as calm as undisturbed water. All he needed to do was to get close enough to Hardy and pounce. Their battle could be ended easily, but the destruction godly way. Zen didn't really know what would happen if he collected all kinds of godly ways in the Infinity Ruler. His father surely had a purpose in putting it into his brain, though he still wasn't quite sure how to fully use it. Once he was confident enough that he could collect others' internal momentum without great danger, then he would gladly do so. Unfortunately, the Infinity Ruler caused Zen quite a lot of trouble every time he used it. It normally had no reaction to the outside world, and he couldn't find any way of using it to see through his enemy's internal momentum. In order to activate the Infinity Ruler, Zen had to take his opponent's attacks head-on and lead their internal momentum into his brain. That was the only way the Infinity Ruler would connect with Zen's eyes and help him see through all sorts of internal momentum. The Infinity Ruler shouldn't be such a troublesome treasure, but Zen still had quite a bit of trouble mastering it. Fortunately for Zen, Hardy's strain capacity was not very good, and he was still taken aback by Zen's speed that he still couldn't understand what his opponent was trying to do. Air destruction. Given no choice, Hardy was forced to use his trump card. The air destruction skill was something he comprehended through the destruction godly way. He still wasn't that familiar with it, so he avoided using it against his opponents, but the pressure he felt from Zen was too much, and he found himself revealing this hidden move of his. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless crescent destruction blades condensed and flew around aimlessly within 3,000 feet of Hardy. These blades constantly collided and garroted against each other, providing him with a sharp, powerful shield. 8 smoky melodies. There was no need to panic. Zen remained calm and simply used his movement technique against his opponent. These destruction blades were extremely sharp and contained a formidable destructive power, but they weren't very fast. All the blades did was to fly around at a very slow speed. Once he used the 8 smoky melodies, Zen's body became light as a feather, and he found himself easily dancing around the destruction blades. As he did so, he also absorbed the internal momentum Hardy had spread out. What are you doing? Hardy shouted. He couldn't stand it having Zen badger him without attacking. If it were anyone else, then they might have already launched fiercer attacks, but Zen didn't seem to have any plans of doing so. However, Zen chose not to answer his question. The next moment, his eyes were already open wide and the edges of his pupils covered with 2 golden rings. These rings continued to break the mystery of the internal momentum Hardy had comprehended. Not long after, a faint light appeared on a scale on the Infinity Ruler. As the faint light dissipated, a round blade was left behind, the mark of the destruction godly way. Chapter 1847, One Strike. Zen was in an anonymous state, so his face was distorted into a constant blur and Hardy couldn't discern the difference in his eyes. Now, after absorbing the destruction godly way into his infinity ruler, Zen put more distance between Hardy and himself. He paused for about 5 seconds, and then with a gentle wave of his hand, he slowly emitted a bright white light from his palm. As the light condensed, it turned into a broad blade radiance. The most powerful way of using a godly way was to activate it with the momentum. A godly way had to be matched with one's godly tile. Although Zen didn't have a godly tile, the internal momentum of the destruction godly way that he released using the chaotic energy seemed to be purer and shinier than the blade radiance that Hardy had released. How is it possible? Hardy stammered in bewilderment. He was stunned to see the large blade radiance in Zen's hand. You've cultivated the destruction godly way too. The destruction godly way was not like the 5 elements godly way. There was almost no threshold to practice the 5 elements godly way, so the vast majority of warriors could cultivate the 5 elements godly way. There were many other extremely powerful godly ways in the divine land, but the thresholds of cultivating these godly ways were very high. When Hardy said that he was a little talented in cultivating the destruction godly way, he was actually being modest. A warrior who cultivated the destruction godly way to a certain degree would be unstoppable, but there weren't many people who were capable of doing it. All of a sudden, Hardy saw Zen use the skill of the destruction godly way and, overwhelmed with astonishment, wondered if Zen had just learned the destruction godly way from him. But that was impossible. He had met a lot of talents in his life, including a few elders of the Qin clan, who were all outstanding talents not only among the clan members but also among all the warriors from the floating islands. And yet, none of them were as talented as the warrior standing in front of Hardy now. Who else would be able to understand and comprehend the godly way of their opponent while battling them? If Hardy breathed so much as a word about this when the battle was over, no one would believe him. The destruction godly way is focused on destroying everything. Among hundreds of thousands of weapons, only the powerful but precise force of a blade can wield it. It is indeed the right choice to condense the light into a blade, Zen said with a faint smile. When Hardy heard these words, all his suspicions were confirmed. It was obvious that Zen had indeed just mastered the destruction godly way during their battle. But it was still too unbelievable for him to accept. You must have already tried to cultivate the destruction godly way and encountered some bottleneck. Then, while battling me, you saw me using it and overcame that bottleneck. Am I right? Hardy asked, desperation creeping into his voice as he tried to reach for a plausible explanation of what he had just encountered. Zen stirred his finger gently, causing the crescent-shaped blade radiance to begin rotating along his elbow. At the same time, he let out a faint laugh. I'm sorry, but I can't answer you. Let's fight. With that, a small crater appeared under Zen's feet once again. Boom! As the ground trembled underneath him, Zen sprang forward. The blade radiance transformed into a bright silver arc in the air as it shot toward Hardy's head. Seeing Zen's unstoppable momentum, Hardy swallowed hard and unwillingly released the strength in his body. The blade radiance in his hand surged again, and he had to bite the bullet to counterattack. Bitterness engulfed him. He had recently proved the godly way, but lost the first battle after stepping into the arena of legends. When he had met Zen, he had thought that he had gotten a great advantage. In fact, he had even been a little guilty. After all, it wasn't fair for him, a true god, to challenge a proving godly warrior. However, for the sake of points, he had decided to risk everything. But never had it crossed his mind that he might be the loser in this battle. Crack! A sharp, crisp sound resounded around them when the two rays of shiny white blade radiance collided with each other. Countless rays of blade radiance shot out of both Hardy and Zen. These rays of blade radiance splashed in all directions like flying blades in the air, leaving almost no space to dodge them. As the rays of blade radiance splashed on Zen's body, they left loud sounds, but there seemed to be no impact. If the rays of blade radiance were aimed at Zen's skin, they would leave fine marks on his skin. And if they cut on his redemption armor, there would be nothing left. It seemed that Zen could resist these rays of blade radiance with his physical body alone. Hardy, on the other hand, couldn't. When the rays of blade radiance made contact with his skin, they didn't stop there. They penetrated all the way through, slicing through his bones and snapping his meridians into pieces. Cling, cling, with just one slash, thousands of rays of blade radiance entered Hardy's body and cut off his life vitality. For a moment, he stood motionless, rooted to the spot. Zen slowly retrieved his blade and stared at Hardy with an indifferent expression on his face. The first battle was much simpler than he had expected, but with exemplary results. Plop! Hardy's body suddenly dropped to the ground and started to disperse. At the same time, the entire illusory world spread out in all directions, like the ripples in a pond. Slowly, everything around them disappeared and they both returned to their own rooms. On the wall of Zen's room, new information about him appeared. His name was still a blur, but he could clearly see his points and the number of times he had won. I only got 75 points after defeating Hardy, Zen murmured with disappointment as he looked at the change in his points. After winning a row of fights with the proving godly warriors, he had gotten an extra 200 points in each battle. In comparison, 75 points was a small amount. However, Zen understood that, according to the rules, his number of consecutive wins had been reset to 0 after he'd begun to challenge true gods, which meant that he wouldn't get extra points for this battle. Anyway, when a low-rank true god challenged another low-rank true god, the winner would only gain 15 points if it was their first non-consecutive win. Zen, on the other hand, had been able to obtain 5 times that amount of points, because he was merely a proving godly warrior while his opponent was a low-rank true god. The extra 60 points he had gotten was his reward for winning a battle against an opponent who was at a higher cultivation level than him. In order to gain millions of points, Zen had to challenge warriors whose cultivation levels were higher than his and had to win consecutively without losing even once. This was Joy's plan, and she had faith in Zen. Outside the Hall of True Gods, the low-rank True Gods were waiting in front of Zen's door. What is Hardy doing? It's taking him such a long time to defeat a proving godly warrior. Maybe that anonymous man has good strength. After all, a proving godly warrior who dares to challenge a low-rank True God must be a powerful warrior. No, most of the proving godly warriors who challenge low-rank True Gods are just arrogant and are usually taught a good lesson. Ha ha ha. There had been very few proving godly warriors who had been able to defeat low-rank true gods in the history of the Arena of Legends, so it was natural for these low-rank true gods to look down on the anonymous opponent that Hardy was facing. While they were discussing the battle, the door of Zen's room suddenly flashed. Then, it turned into a blue ray of light and quickly shot upward from the side of the Hall of True Gods. His door is moving up. The rank of the anonymous man has risen. He actually defeated Hardy. The low-rank true gods who had been waiting for the anonymous man to emerge could do nothing but look at his door in awe and surprise as it moved up. They hadn't expected at all that Hardy would lose this battle. The rankings of these doors in the Hall of True Gods represented the warriors' rankings. Zen had never been ranked so far, so his name would not be displayed on the Jade Wall of Legends. However, the position of his door would still change. Now that Zen had won the match with Hardy, his rank in his door rose up 16 spots. Buzz. The mobile blue light quickly transformed into the shape of a door frame before fading. At the same time, the door of Hardy's room swung 2 spots downward. He had already reached the bottom floor, so he couldn't lose much. It was impossible for him to fall to the level of proving godly warriors. Crack! While the low-rank true gods were discussing the outcome of the battle with disbelief on their faces, Hardy walked out of his room with a gloomy expression. Hardy, were you really defeated by that anonymous man? Did you lose to him on purpose? Or because of your carelessness? Or is it because that guy is really capable? When Hardy heard these anxious questions, his disappointment was replaced by annoyance. He had always been a fair person, and had thought that it was unfair to fight with the anonymous man whose cultivation level was lower than his. And yet, Hardy had lost to him. It had come as a heavy blow to him. A wicked thought emerged from his irritated mood. With a sly expression on his face, he said to them, "That guy's strength is ordinary. I was just too careless. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lost to him." Chapter 1848, A Trap. In Hardy's opinion, this anonymous man was quite powerful. Even if he put aside the man's ability to instantly comprehend his godly way during their battle, he judged that the man was much stronger than the low-rank true gods who had just proved the godly ways. But regardless of the anonymous man's abilities, he was still only a proving godly warrior. Hardy was already in a bad mood after losing to him, but his mood worsened when the other low-rank true gods surrounded him and kept annoying him with questions. Even though he was a straightforward and simple-minded man, he was willing to watch them lose their points to the anonymous man. As he had expected, the group of true gods relaxed upon hearing his words. Then, they began to chide Hardy for his carelessness as if they were superior to him. How could you be so careless? No matter how weak the opponent is, you should always keep vigilant. You've lost to a mere proving godly warrior. I hope you learned your lesson. Hey, Hey, wait for me. After saying a few perfunctory words to Hardy, the true gods rushed to Zen's door. They didn't want to miss the chance to beat a proving godly warrior. For them, it seemed like an easy way to gain points. As a result, the few true gods swarmed in front of Zen's door, blocking it completely. Seeing this group of fellows rushing toward Zen's door, the other low-rank true gods had puzzled expressions on their faces. However, it was only when Zen opened the door that they realized that there was a proving godly warrior who had begun to challenge warriors above his level. As a result, more low-rank true gods went up to Zen's door. They all thought that they could beat this proving godly warrior and earn easy points. On the other hand, Zen was shocked to see so many low-rank true gods gathered in front of his door. He glared at them and asked, "What are you doing? Quick, accept my challenge. I'm even weaker than Hardy. Maybe you can also defeat me. Choose me." These low-rank true gods all eagerly tried to lure Zen into choosing them to challenge next. Zen rolled his eyes, and then suddenly realized that these people couldn't see his expression as he was still in an anonymous state. According to Joy, as long as he won consecutively without losing any battles, it would be easy for him to amass a large number of points. So, it was actually a good thing for him that so many people were enthusiastically waiting to challenge him. He could pick them one by one and defeat them. After all, these guys were the weakest of the low-rank true gods. Some of them had just proved the godly ways and their godly tiles were not stable yet, so naturally, they couldn't exert their full strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't be picking on a proving godly warrior for the sake of points. However, with Zen's current ability, it would be a piece of cake for him to defeat them. But on second thought, Zen found the whole commotion a little strange and realized that he was being too optimistic. These guys were clamoring to challenge Zen only because they didn't know his real strength yet. Once they discovered that Zen was not as weak as they thought, how would they be willing to battle Zen? What Zen didn't know was that there were many limits placed on face-to-face challenges in order to prevent warriors of the same clan from getting points by cheating. A warrior could obtain many points if they won consecutive battles, so as long as they picked rivals that they knew they could defeat, they could keep gaining points. For example, if a true god of the Han clan kept defeating another true god of the same clan, then the former would keep gaining points. The Arena of Legends had been around for many years, and it had been continuously refined to remove such large loopholes in the rules. According to the current rules, a warrior could not challenge the same opponent in a row. On top of that, a warrior was not allowed to challenge an opponent whose ranking was 100 places higher or lower than themselves. It was natural for a warrior's ranking to constantly change as long as they participated in battles. Sometimes, when they won or lost a match, their ranking could instantly rise hundreds or even thousands of places. With this constant change in their rankings, it was difficult for them to cheat. However, no matter how refined the rules were, it was impossible to prevent warriors from cheating. Some of the powerful clans and some of the weak clans would secretly reach an agreement and concede to each other. When the disciples of the two clans that had reached an agreement encountered each other, one of them would choose to admit defeat according to the agreement. Outside the Arena of Legends, of course, the winner would give a lot of monetary compensation to the loser. This was equal to purchasing points with money. Whatever it was, Zen thought that he could easily earn points for now, so he had no reason to turn down any of the challenges that came his way. He randomly pointed at one of the low-rank true gods gathered in front of his door and said, "I challenge you." Zen was referring to a low-rank true god whose skin was green. He didn't know what kind of bloodline this true god had, but he looked like a zombie with a very terrifying appearance. The true god felt lucky to be chosen by Zen. He immediately rushed down to his own room and launched a challenge against Zen. The rest of the low-rank true gods remained in front of Zen's room so that they could track its location when his door changed its position once the battle was over. 5 minutes later, Zen's door frame flashed blue. "It's over. It's over. Is it my turn this time? I've been waiting for him for such a long time. Why is it your turn now? No need to scramble. Let's take turns." Just as everyone was arguing over who would go next, the blue light once again flew upwards. All of the people who were fighting to challenge Zen were stunned. He won again. The proving godly warrior won twice in a row against low-rank true gods. I'm afraid it wasn't because of luck this time. This guy isn't as simple as he seems. These low-rank true gods were not idiots. When Hardy had been defeated by Zen, they had all believed that, just as he had said, he had lost to Zen only because of his own complacency. So, they had all chalked up Zen's first victory against a low-rank true god to sheer luck. But now, he had defeated a second low-rank true god. Was it still luck? Hardy, who was standing nearby and watching them, secretly felt a bit relieved when he saw the expressions on their faces. This anonymous man is really something else. Perhaps he can break the record. I have to tell my clan about this, Hardy thought. Although he was upset that he lost twice in a row, he had collected a piece of valuable news. Thus, after returning to his own room, Hardy left the Jade Wall of Legends. Then, he reported the news to the Qin clan. This news immediately piqued the interest of some of the seniors of the Qin clan. In all the wealthy clans, there were a few warriors who specialized in the analysis of the rankings on the Jade Wall of Legends and predicting future changes. Some of them could even remember all the names and rankings on the Jade Wall of Legends. After hearing this new piece of information from Hardy, the Qin clan sent someone to investigate the identity of the anonymous man, but they couldn't find any clues about him. That anonymous man is definitely not a normal proving godly warrior, as he dares to challenge low-ranked true gods. Only the top 10 of the proving godly warriors have the qualifications to fight against warriors at higher levels. However, the top 10 proving godly warriors haven't fought against anyone for a long time. A senior of the Qin clan said, staring at the Jade Wall of Legends. Is it possible that he has never lost a match? Another senior of the Qin clan speculated. That is indeed a possibility. It would explain why we can't determine his identity. If the anonymous man has never lost a challenge among the proving godly warriors, then his ranking would never have been calculated. As of now, he doesn't have a ranking among the low-ranked true gods as well. Haha, I don't know which little boy could be so radical. It's just 2 consecutive wins. Just keep paying attention to him. In addition to the Qin clan, there were also a few other powerful clans that were keeping an eye on Zen. It was likely that they had all come to the same conclusion. After Zen defeated the second low-ranked true god, he gained 75 points for his victory as well as an extra reward for his consecutive win, which was another 75 points. Thus, he obtained a total of 150 points. It was true that he could gain a lot of points by challenging true gods, but only if he managed not to lose any battles. But despite his victory, Zen looked a little upset when he reached his room. Shaking his head, he thought to himself, I risked so much but I couldn't activate the Infinity Ruler. It's a pity that I couldn't absorb his internal momentum. The Infinity Ruler is really hard to use. When Zen opened his door again, there were still countless low-ranked true gods waiting outside his door, but this time, many of them had cautious expressions in their eyes. They knew that Zen had to have more than just luck on his side now that he had won 2 battles against low-ranked true gods in a row. This anonymous man must have unusual strength. Hey, do you want to challenge me? Zen's voice sounded again from his blurry face. The true gods who had been relentlessly arguing with one another to challenge Zen now fell silent all of a sudden. They were all secretly considering Zen's true strength. After a few seconds of silence, one of them finally decided to take the risk. I challenge you. I'll wait for you. Zen smiled and went back into his room. After he closed the door of his room, the true gods gathered outside fell into a dilemma. If this fellow's strength was ordinary, then wouldn't this be a chance for them to gain points? However, they didn't have to think about it long this time. After just 90 seconds, the door of Zen's room flashed blue and then shot upwards. Seeing Zen's door soaring up again, these true gods found themselves at a loss for words. Chapter 1849, Gossip. After entering the Hall of True Gods, Zen won 3 consecutive battles, and his ranking steadily increased by more than 100 places. However, his ranking could only be seen within the Hall of True Gods by the ranking of his room door. Since he hadn't lost even a single battle, it was impossible to find him on the Jade Wall of Legends. Now that he had put a space of 100 ranks between himself and the low-ranked true gods just now, he had shattered all their expectations. There was a rule that participants could only challenge warriors within 100 rankings from themselves, so these low-ranked true gods were no longer qualified to challenge Zen. Moreover, Zen had already shown his strength by defeating 3 low-ranked true gods in a row. People could claim that Zen's first victory had been a matter of luck. They could explain his second victory away as well by claiming that his opponent had taken him lightly. But after Zen's third victory, it would be downright stupid to downplay his skills and take him as a mere proving godly warrior. No one took the initiative to challenge Zen again, and Zen also tried to choose his opponents randomly. Anyway, they were selected according to their rankings, so at his current level, Zen wouldn't face any opponent who was ridiculously strong. His fourth opponent turned out to be Fletcher Lee, a disciple of the Lee clan which ranked 17th among all the floating islands. His godly way was the Great Manipulating Way. The Great Manipulating Way could help one manipulate everything in the world. It was similar to the puppet techniques that Zen had seen before. It could also be considered the peak method of the puppet techniques. However, the great manipulating way was much more overbearing, and one could exert thousands of invisible silk threads to break into an opponent's mind and manipulate their soul. This time, Zen didn't let the silk threads enter his mind. He knew that Fletcher would make every effort to turn him into a puppet. If he allowed that to happen, he would face a lot more than a defeat. Once his soul was invaded, his opponent would be able to see his true identity and his deepest secrets. It would be his biggest problem. The great manipulating way was indeed very special, but its combat effectiveness was not very strong. Perhaps it was because there was no powerful puppet in Fletcher's hands. Some of the golden puppets he was using could not block Zen's attacks at all. In the end, after a cautious battle, Fletcher was defeated and he left the arena of legends unwillingly. Because of the special nature of the great manipulating way, Zen was unable to absorb this godly way. If the Infinity Ruler could be activated freely, Zen would not be in such trouble. With the Infinity Ruler, he did not need to take any risks to take in the internal momentum of his opponent, he only needed to use his golden pupils to see through the internal momentum of his opponent. Just thinking about it made him feel depressed. There was no day or night in the Hall of True Gods. All the disciples of the floating islands were picking opponents to battle. The spiral doors would occasionally emit blue lights while changing their positions. If a door went up, it meant that the warrior had won, if it slid downward, it meant that he or she had been defeated. After the fourth battle, Zen received an extra reward of more than 500 points. What Joy had told him was right, the extra reward for challenging higher-level warriors was really huge. According to his calculation, he would probably get an extra reward of thousands of points in his 10th battle. The higher the rank of his rune was, the stronger the opponents he would encounter, and the harder it would be to obtain points. Zen did not continue to challenge a new opponent, but instead returned to his room and left the Jade Wall of Legends. Letting the Infinity Ruler take in the godly ways was a crucial thing for Zen. As he pondered over the Infinity Ruler, he hoped that he would be able to fill all the scales of it while earning points in the Arena of Legends. To his surprise, as soon as he left the Jade Wall of Legends, he saw Joy standing behind him, crossing her arms and staring at him with a pair of soft and beautiful eyes that looked like they held deep meaning behind them. Seeing her eyes made Zen feel embarrassed. He turned his head and saw Laquisha standing in plain clothes at one side of the hall. Judging by her red face, Zen guessed that she'd been talking about something with Joy just now. The Princess Royal of the Han clan has come to see you in person. Why don't you come and greet her? Joy asked teasingly with a smile. Hearing that, Laquisha complained with a shy smile, Aunt Joy. Isn't it too much for you to say that he should greet me? It's not necessary. Joy was not actually Laquisha's aunt. But since Joy was a demi-holy being and much older than her, Laquisha had to respect her by calling her Aunt Joy. However, in terms of seniority in the family, Laquisha was in fact Joy's grand aunt. After all, Laquisha was the eldest daughter of the Holy Emperor. Although she was much younger than Joy, she was Joy's senior in the Han clan. Laquisha didn't know her rank clearly, and anyway, no one cared about it. Whenever the direct descendants of the Han clan met Joy, they would all call her Aunt Joy, due to respect. Obeying Joy's words, Zen bowed to Laquisha with his hands clasped in front of his chest and said, Thad Luo from the Purple Soul Hall paying his respects to your highness. A hint of displeasure flashed in Laquisha's eyes when she heard these words. The formal way Zen was addressing her drew a distance between them. With her lips curving up into an evil smile, she blinked and said, I don't know who Thad Luo is. I only know. Zen immediately became nervous. He knew that if he let her continue to speak, she would probably let the cat out of the bag and reveal his true identity. When she paused, he winked and hurriedly changed the subject. Your Highness, I've already participated in battles of challenging warriors at a higher level in the Jade Wall of Legends. If I meet your Highness someday in the future, please show mercy. Laquisha sulked as she glanced at Zen. She hadn't really been about to expose Zen's identity in front of Joy. After all, she would never do anything to annoy Zen. Instead, she cooperated with him and talked about other things. Joy didn't know that Zen and Laquisha had known each other in the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land. Before Zen had arrived, Joy had been teasing Laquisha. She had told Laquisha that if it weren't for her marriage with the Leng clan, she could consider Thad Luo to be her fiancé. She hadn't avoided talking about the matter at all and had kept talking about how excellent Zen was. But what Joy hadn't known was that she had said Laquisha's thoughts aloud, and that was why Laquisha's face had gone red. Laquisha had never had feelings for Langston. And after the incident this time, she hated him for being self-centered. How could she agree to marry him? She had made up her mind and had the courage to move forward. LaQuisha looked gentle and lovely, but once she made a decision, it was impossible for anyone to change it. When LaQuisha had told her that she'd come here today to pay a visit to Zen, Joy had thought that LaQuisha just wanted to show her gratitude to Zen. But now her strange conversation with Zen raised Joy's doubts. "Thank you for saving Elena a few days ago. This is my gift to you," said LaQuisha. With a light flick of her finger, she made a small brocade box appear. The box was crystal clear and exquisite, and there was a light green pill inside. "LaQuisha, you are so generous. The 7 times refined God-turning pill. It's a rare thing." Joy smiled when she saw the light green pill. The God-turning pill could be integrated into the cinnabar field to activate the life vitality C in the body, which would make it easier to atomize the seawater and also accelerate the condensation of the godly tile. However, these kinds of pills were usually 2 or 3 times refined. Few people would make the 7 times refined God-turning pill. The 7 times refined God-turning pill was used only to accelerate the condensation of the godly tile. Only wealthy clans like the Han clan would refine these pills for direct disciples. And since it was specially refined, it was, of course, rare. Even Master Evil gasped in admiration at the extravagance of the wealthy clans when he noticed the 7 times refined God-turning pill. "Thank you." Zen politely took this delicate brocade box from LaQuisha's hand. As their hands brushed against each other, LaQuisha pinched his finger with great force. However, she'd forgotten that Zen's corporeal body was much tougher than a supreme primordial weapon. Zen didn't show any reaction whereas she felt a dull pain in her fingertips. And although LaQuisha had tried to be subtle and secretive, this gesture didn't go unnoticed by Joy's keen eyes. But Joy didn't want to question LaQuisha about it now. "May you prove a godly way as soon as possible and make a contribution to my Han clan," LaQuisha said to Zen. "Now that I have become a disciple of the Han clan, I must make a contribution." After exchanging a few conventional remarks with Zen in front of Joy, LaQuisha said goodbye and left. As soon as she turned around, the smile on her face disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by an expression of extreme disappointment, and even a little anger. When she had come to see Zen, she had been hoping to have an opportunity to talk to him alone. She hadn't expected Joy to directly bring Zen to her palace. LaQuisha had even implied that she would have a talk with Thad alone, but Joy had pretended not to understand her words and had shown no signs of leaving. In addition to giving the gift to Zen, LaQuisha had wasted her time. After LaQuisha left her palace, Joy stared at Zen with great interest and asked, "Thad, have you ever met Princess Royal outside the floating island?" Seeing Joy's strong desire to get the truth out of him, Zen sighed in his heart. Even though Joy was a demi-holy being, she still liked to gossip. This was very abnormal. Chapter 1850, Joy's Deduction. Although Joy's question came off lighthearted and casual, Zen had a hard time finding the words to answer her. He had no clue whether or not LaQuisha had gone anywhere other than the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land. As the Princess Royal of the Han clan, what she said and what she did were under the scrutiny of many. If Zen were to make up a story on the spot, he was afraid that Joy would see right through him in an instant. Noticing the embarrassed look on Zen's face, Joy said indifferently, "I think LaQuisha knows something important like your true identity. Over the years, I've never seen her leave the floating island. She's never even traveled to the Han clan's ancestral land. In fact, the only time she left the floating island was to go to the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land. I can only deduce that if you met her before, then you could only have met her in the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land." Her eyes flickered with 2 rays of pale purple light, as though there were 2 worlds flowing deep within. She was attractive and resonated a curious beauty. Such powerful warriors at high levels of cultivation always had their unique and incomparable charm. Divine citizens living outside the floating islands aren't qualified to enter the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land. Only the descendants and disciples of the wealthy clans on the floating islands can enter. You just joined the Han clan, and thus, I know you aren't from any of those wealthy clans. Joy's analysis made Zen's heart jump from his chest to his mouth. If nothing else, he had to admit that she was very clever. She had a unique way of analyzing so many situations with such simple information. "Most likely, you come from a holy being's universe," continued Joy, now staring at Zen. "And all living creatures that come from the universes must be led by the members of the Zhang clan, and all names on the list will be registered in the Hall of Holy Beings. I remember that the 833rd rule of the ruling slate was activated not long ago, and the punishment for stowaways was triggered, but the matter remained unsettled. The Hall of Holy Beings had sent people to investigate, but no results came from such. This is all very strange. She narrowed her beautiful eyes and glared at Zen with growing interest. She looked like a smart, sly fox. With a meaningful smile on her face, she went on to say, Harold has been acting very reckless recently. I don't like that brat very much. Ever since Mike lost his status and his floating island, he's done nothing but lead the Luo clan members to cause trouble in other clans, relying on the Everest Spirit Mountain. And last time, he nearly got into a fight with me, too. This time around, they even dared fight with the Zhang clan, with the purpose of forcing the clan to withdraw all their members from the universes. I guess his master, Mike, might have something to do with it. Now it was Zen's turn to stare at Joy, and his face grew completely gloomy. Although he tried hard to cover his emotions, his heart was beating very fast in his chest. He had no idea what he was about to face. He felt like a lamb being put up for slaughter in front of Joy, and whether or not she was going to kill him was completely up to her. I'd say you're from the evolutionary universe, and everything was arranged by Mike. Am I guessing correctly? Joy asked, as she slowly walked toward Zen. A strong fragrance greeted his nose as she approached. Although the fragrance was heavy, it wasn't enough to make people feel tired. Instead, people would be fascinated by the smell and thought it was attractive. For Zen, he couldn't help himself but sniff it out again and again. She raised her hand and gently grasped onto Zen's chin. From the very beginning, I just felt that this was all very strange. It's just impossible for a talent like you to emerge from the divine citizens. I mean, it would have been hard for even the wealthy clans on the floating islands to have trained a talent like you. Perhaps you're that woman's child, not an ordinary divine embryo. More importantly though, your surname hasn't been changed. You still use the Luo surname. That is why I've come to the conclusion that you're Mike's son. That woman? What woman? What do you mean by that? Zen asked in a dry, flat voice. Joy had just said that he was possibly the baby of some woman and that he wasn't an ordinary divine embryo. Did Joy know who his mother was? In the past, Zen had obtained a few clues that indicated his mother was still alive. He and Yan weren't merely created by Mike, and they did have a mother. Now that his guess had been confirmed by Joy, his curiosity was piqued of course, and he had to ask her more questions. You don't have to ask so many questions, said Joy with a light and friendly smile. Zen's face was still gloomy. He hadn't expected Joy to guess what had happened with just a few words about Laquisha. And did she say that even Harold had tried fighting her? Could this mean that Joy was actually standing on the Luo clan's opposing side? Zen had too many questions swimming in his mind. This was only one of several possibilities, but it definitely wasn't good news. What are you going to do? Zen asked anew, frowning slightly. This time, he didn't even call her master, now that he knew she might actually be an enemy. Joy's eyes flashed suddenly and she turned around. The cunning expression on her face left just as quickly as it came. She changed from a sly woman to an innocent girl, with eyes wide open. Take it easy. The world is so boring. At that time, Mike wanted to make the world more interesting. I was looking forward to it, but he failed. What a pity. But I know what kind of person he is. He's the type of man who will never give up, not until his death stops him. That said, it's safe to say that he's almost dead now, but he has yet to give up. Alas, I do see a shimmer of new hope, she said with her lips curled upward. Upon hearing her speak, Zen was in no way relieved. Warriors like Joy were far too smart, and Zen couldn't quite figure out exactly what was on her mind. For this reason, Zen tentatively asked, You said you saw new hope. Did you mean me? With a shrug of her shoulders, Joy didn't admit it, nor did she deny it. She just continued staring intently at Zen, looking him up and down. There was still a strange feeling coming from her eyes, as if she had been reluctant to let Zen leave, or as if she wanted to say something more. This kind of feeling was confusing, and Zen couldn't figure out what this demi-holy being meant. The two stared at each other for a short while, although it felt like a few hours. A voice coming from outside the palace disturbed them. Master Joy, Princess Ilena wants to see you. The Han clan's holy emperor only had 2 daughters. Both of them were born in recent decades. The elder princess was Laquisha, and the younger princess was Ilena. Joy cast a reproachful glance at Zen. I don't know how much talent you've inherited from your father, but in terms of attracting girls, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. You're just like him. Ilena and Laquisha had a good relationship with each other. They should have come here and visited Zen together. However, they were visiting in turns, and Joy could only come to the conclusion that there had been a misunderstanding between the sisters, that they weren't as close with one another as they had been in the past. And that misunderstanding might have something to do with this young man who called himself Thad. Joy remembered that it was almost the same time for Elena and Lucretia to enter the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land. Elena should have gotten to know Zen in the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land, too. The only reason she came here alone must be that she had developed a girlish crush on Zen, just like her sister had. I wonder what the Holy Emperor will think if he finds out both his daughters have fallen in love with the same guy. Joy thought to herself. With a slight pout, Zen said nothing. A girl in a blue dress, who had been standing for a while now at the palace gate, suddenly ran into the hall. Her smart eyes twinkled. Upon noticing Joy, Elena greeted her with a casual nod and then jumped toward Zen. Hi, Thad. She stuck her tongue out and clamped it between her front teeth. Zen's real name had nearly slipped out of her mouth due to her carelessness. I'm so curious about your real name, Joy said, her tone now strange. Elena blushed. She touched her face with her hand in embarrassment and cast an apologetic glance at Zen. She feigned innocence and murmured, real name? What do you mean? His name is Thad Luo and you know that. Of course, she couldn't expect that her cover would only make Joy more suspicious. Joy, on her behalf, wouldn't expose what she knew in front of Elena. Instead, she just nodded her head in order to demonstrate her agreement. Thad, thank you so much for helping Kelsey and me a few days ago. Someday soon, I will thank you by inviting you over to my place. Elena was much bolder in character than Lucretia. While speaking, she winked at Zen secretly, indicating that she had a lot to talk to him about. However, Zen remained expressionless. He was still feeling disturbed by what Joy had said earlier and was in no mood to fool around with this girl. Elena, however, was unable to grasp Zen's thoughts from the expression on his face. She shook Joy's hand and acted like a spoiled child. I have something to tell Thad. Aunt Joy, would you please leave us alone for a while? No more than 4 people in all the Han clan would ever dare to speak to Joy in such a way. Joy spoiled and doted on both the Holy Emperor's daughters very much, but this time, she refused her. Thad has something else to do. I'm afraid he doesn't have time for you today. Disappointment etched itself onto Elena's features at Joy's words, but she quickly adjusted it. After all, Zen was now here, on the Han clan's floating island. There would be plenty of chances for her to meet him in the near future. With a smile now, she looked at Zen again and said, by the way, I have something for you, to say thanks. And at that, she clapped her hands together briskly. Like magic, she pulled a huge table out of her Sumeru space. As she waved her hand a second time, cups and bowls wondrously appeared atop the table. All kinds of precious dishes spread out, a few of which Joy herself had never even seen. Once Elena left, Joy fixed her eyes upon all the dishes splayed out the table and said with a smirk, that little girl is just so thoughtful. You know, some of these dishes are very precious. Collecting them is quite the task. Before she could finish her sentence, a voice from the gate rang into their ears. Master Joy, the clan head's daughter, Kelsey Han, has requested to meet with you. As she took in what she just heard, the corners of Joy's mouth twitched in surprise before pulling into a tight line. Did this girl come here to meet Thad, too? Chapter 1851, Purple Sky Land. Lucretia, Elena and Kelsey were quite dear to everyone in the Han clan. Kelsey was the daughter of the master of the Han clan while Lucretia and Elena were the daughters of the Holy Emperor of the Han clan. Everyone held them in high esteem. Zen was of great assistance to the 3 girls, therefore he didn't think of it as a big deal when they visited him. However, he didn't expect them to come one after another. Although Kelsey was a year younger than Elena, she was much more cunning than Elena was. As soon as her eyes fell on Joy, who was sitting nearby, she bowed and said, I'm so glad to see you, Aunt Joy. I missed you so much, so I came here today. Wow, you look much prettier than before. Joy smiled with delight. You always have a sweet tongue, but I think that you didn't miss me and you didn't come to see me, right? Kelsey was taken aback. What do you mean, Aunt Joy? She stated nervously. Let me guess. You are here because you want to give Thad a gift for he has helped you that day, right? Joy asked joyfully. Kelsey hesitated but quickly regained her composure and said, I'm just grateful that Thad helped me. I just wanted to thank him. Joy gave Kelsey a broad smile. That's totally fine, but why didn't you all 3 come together? She questioned. Kelsey was shocked when she heard what Joy had said. Did Elena come here before me? She inquired. Not only Elena but Lucretia also paid him a visit, smiled Joy. This confused Kelsey. Lucretia and Elena knew who Zen really was, but Kelsey was unaware of Zen's identity. She didn't know that Zen had already met the 2 sisters in the Divine Refinement Forbidden Land. She even thought that Zen had taught Keenan a lesson for her that day. Thus, this came as a bit of a shock to her that both the sisters visited Thad alone. Kelsey was able to hide her emotions and did not say much. She planned to take Thad to the Holy Emperor city, which was under her father's control, in order to train him. However, her father held some grudges against Joy, and since Thad belonged to the Purple Soul Hall, Joy had a keen liking for him. Thus, taking him to the Holy Emperor city would be an uphill task. Kelsey took out a blue necklace, which was the honoraria she had prepared for Zen. It was a supreme primordial weapon which could protect one's soul from being hurt. Even though it was not a top-grade supreme primordial weapon, it was still of extreme value in the eyes of ordinary disciples of the floating islands. Kelsey gave the necklace to Zen, thanked Joy for her hospitality and left. Joy sighed after Kelsey left and said, "She is unaware of your identity, I think." Zen nodded. Since Joy had guessed most of the truth, he had nothing to hide. "They all wanted to tell you something today but couldn't because of me," she blurted out. "Look, I won't interfere in your personal affairs, but after all, these girls are from my clan, and if you break their hearts like your father did, you'd be severely dealt with." Joy's words caught Zen by surprise. A figure started forming in his mind that maybe his father offended Joy somehow in the past. After all, Joy had become a demi-holy being for a long time, and before the floating island of the Luo clan was in decline, his father was a holy emperor too. Zen didn't say much and kept his thoughts to himself. "So, Thad Luo isn't your real name, is it? What's your real name?" Joy questioned Zen. It was a well-known fact that Murphy had started a war in Mike's evolutionary universe. Joy had already figured out that Zen changed his name in order to conceal his true identity. With his current level of cultivation, it would be quite impossible for him to escape once his identity was revealed. "My last name is Luo," Zen replied nervously. I know. Joy threw Zen a filthy look. "Zen Luo," Zen stated. "Zen Luo?" she asked. Zen nodded. She rummaged her thoughts and said, "Mike gave you a very ambitious name. He had once written an article about conquering heaven. I think he gave you the name from that article. Zen's Chinese name means conquering." Zen remained quiet. He was hoping that Joy would keep his identity a secret. It seemed that this demi-holy being was not hostile to him. Joy quickly changed the subject and said, "I witnessed the battles between you and the 4 true gods. Your body is quite strong, and your soul is even stronger than that of most low-rank true gods, although you killed your opponents with sheer brute force. I know you can easily defeat some low-rank true gods, but as you progress, you'd come to know that defeating the top talents of the wealthy clans on the floating islands is much, much harder." Zen was aware of the fact that Joy was right. In fact, a proven godly warrior could acquire a lot of extra points if they participated in the battle of challenging warriors at higher levels, but if they lost even a single battle, they would lose a considerable amount of points. Zen could easily deal with the low-rank true gods, but he knew that the task of facing the high-rank true gods would be quite arduous. Zen wasn't able to condense his godly tile, thus it became quite difficult for him to advance further. And he didn't dare to use the emotion-closing godly way. Even if he participated as an anonymous man, his points would be included in the Han clans. Therefore, if his cultivating of the forbidden way was exposed, it was likely that he would be kicked out by the Hall of Holy Beings. And Joy would never let Zen condense the godly tile, if opportunity arose. Zen had less than 3 months to accumulate enough points by fighting the warriors at higher levels in the arena of legends. If he was able to break through to the true god realm, he would be challenging the warriors at the same level as him, and he wouldn't be able to acquire a great deal of extra rewards. It would be quite difficult for me to greatly enhance my strength in such a short period of time, Zen wondered out loud. Joy gave him a warm smile and said, "My boy, it's not impossible at all. Close your eyes." Joy gently touched Zen's forehead with her finger, and Zen was surrounded by wisps of purple fog. Everything around Zen vanished as he was hauled into some unknown world by Joy. Zen slowly opened his eyes. Much to his astonishment, the world as he knew was engulfed by a purple mist. Zen saw snake-like enormous beasts wandering about. The beasts gave a cry of excitement when they saw Joy. Apart from these giant beasts, Zen saw huge plants that were touching the sky. The leaves of these plants covered the sky and sun, and on the leaves hung countless purple bats. The purple bats were startled by the high-pitched screams of the snakes. They rattled their wings with annoyance as they prepared to fly. Everything appeared quite strange to Zen. It felt as if Zen was in the purple power world. Zen asked Joy, "What place is this?" "Purple Sky Land. I built this universe." She beamed proudly. The Purple Sky Land was a special universe. Joy acquired the title of demi-holy being because of the Purple Sky Land, and if Joy further perfected the Purple Sky Land, she also had the opportunity to become a holy being. Why am I here? Zen asked curiously. I am unaware of where your strength came from, but I will teach you a method in the might godly way. In this way you can exert your strength to the most extent. This cultivation method is mainly used by the true gods who are able to condense the 9 divine stars. Although you haven't activated a star yet, I believe that you would benefit from it a great deal. It's for the true gods who have 9 divine stars, he thought. Zen was a little stunned. Not only had he fully condensed out the 9 divine stars, they were also present in his inner world. Joy was unaware of the primal chaos technique, and she was unaware that someone was quite skilled at it. After Holy J gave Zen a large amount of strength source to gather 9 stars, they automatically infused into Zen's inner world. Before Zen, only holy beings were able to merge the 9 divine stars with the universes. Chapter 1852, Power Shaping. The warriors in the divine land had a thorough understanding of the godly ways. Each of the godly ways was a mature and complete system unto itself. But after years and years of hard research, a few talents had cut the internal momentum in the godly way, and with their comprehension, had created their own cultivation method. For example, Holy J's Ice Soul Flame and Yazid's 5 Elements Destructing. This type of cultivation method was known as the Thurgi Beyond Way, which was a Thurgi beyond the godly way. Some Thurgis were extremely powerful, such as the Ice Soul Flame. So far, there had been a countless number of true gods who had wanted to take Holy J as their master so that they could practice the Ice Soul Flame. The 5 Elements Destructing was relatively ordinary and wasn't any more powerful than the Thurgi of the 5 Elements Godly Way. It was better to spend time on cultivating the 5 Elements Godly Way than to the former, which was why the true gods considered the 5 Elements Destructing as ordinary and weren't interested in it. The argument between supporters of the Thurgi Beyond Way and that of the Godly Way was a lasting one. Some people said that the godly ways were the foundation of the divine land and that they should focus on cultivating the godly ways. But there were also people who said that the Thurgi Beyond Way was the future of the divine land. Strong creatures had deliberately created the 3,000 godly ways. A greater chaos still existed outside the divine land, and being limited by the 3,000 godly ways was not a good thing. This argument was still ongoing with no conclusion in sight. The preciousness of the might godly way is the single use of brute strength and is very powerful. Because the strength source can morph into various shapes, the effect is very direct. This is the natural advantage that the might godly way has over other godly ways, Joy said, waving her hand gently at the purple sky. A sudden splash sounded and the snake-like giant beasts in the purple mist surged in one direction and disappeared before anyone could blink. At the same time, 21 purple stars appeared in the sky. Zen counted for a few seconds before he asked, shouldn't there be only 9 stars? Why are there 21? Joy smiled. There were 9 sparkling lights among the 21 purple stars. They were beautiful and reflected different colors as gems under the sun. Zen knew that it was the color of the strength source. There were 9 similarly colored stars in Zen's inner world. Zen's 9 stars were a little smaller than those of Joy, but they were only a quarter smaller than them. Zen had only absorbed 1/3 of the strength source from Holy J, which meant that although Joy had 9 divine stars that had also been absorbed by the purple sky land, her strength source was still less than that of ordinary holy beings. As Joy waved her hand, wisps of invisible power descended from the deep sky. The waves of power were normally colorless and invisible. The reason why Zen could hurt Langston was because of the sword that was made of the invisible power. Langston hadn't noticed it at the most critical moment and had almost gotten his head pierced by the sword. In fact, the 2 fights that Zen had had with Langston and Sheridan also confused many people from the wealthy clans on the floating islands. They didn't know how Zen had used the invisible power, and what kind of a godly way he was cultivating. After all, they couldn't even imagine that a proving godly warrior could use the cross-world Thurgi to extract pure strength out of his body. Mist was present all the time, shrouding the purple sky land. The invisible power was so conspicuous due to the mist that it revealed the outline of the power. Under Joy's control, the invisible power had descended quickly. It could push the purple mist and transform into all kinds of shapes, including those of humans, dragons, and phoenixes. At this, Zen's eyes widened in surprise. Zen could do the same. With the cross-world Thurgi, he could easily master his strength and turn the strength into various shapes. But he could only shift the strength into one shape at a time. This is a Thurgi Beyond way that is comprehended from the might godly way. It is usually called power shaping. Joy continued, in fact, warriors can perform the lowest level of the power shaping ever since their 8th path platforms are activated. The most primitive power was that from the martial artist's body. When fighting against an opponent, one would have to exhaust the strength in their muscles and meridians first. When the 8 path platforms were activated, extra power was condensed in the path platforms. When a body refiner needed power, they could extract it from the 8 path platforms and pass it to their hands through their meridians. This was the most basic power shaping that shaped the power into a liquid and quickly spread it to the position that the warrior needed along the meridians. The power shaping? Zen asked, pursing his lips. He didn't expect everyone to have the ability of activating the power shaping. Joy glanced at Zen and explained, it's the lowest level and can't force your strength out of your body. Once you completely learn power shaping, you can greatly enhance your ability to defend against the enemy. She flicked a slender finger and 5 invisible forces emerged from each of her fingertips, extending about an inch, like several sharp and invisible fingernails. Zen was stunned and remained speechless for a long time. He had the cross-world theurgy and what Joy had just done was a piece of cake for him. On the other hand, Joy hadn't been present when Zen had fought Langston, or she wouldn't have bothered to explain everything to him so carefully. The most powerful method of the power shaping is to use the cross-world theurgy to transform power into infinite shapes, which is almost impossible for the opponent to guard against. The power shaping is divided into 3 stages. I will teach you the first stage, which is all about how to force the power out of your body. The first stage of the power shaping was to shape the power and extend the strength as a part of one's own body, like the invisible fingertips that Joy had made. When one had perfectly mastered this method, they could attack their opponent before the opponent could even react. In the second stage, one could extend the power even further and twist it into a simple shape. The third stage was the most complex of all and it involved turning power into an independent subject and control the subject. The power was the strongest in this stage, but the conditions were most severe. Only those who had the cross-world theurgy could use it freely and that meant that this was an ability exclusive to holy beings. Zen was placed somewhere between the second and the third stages. With the cross-world theurgy, he could easily turn the power into simple shapes, but his movements were not as flexible as Joy's. Joy was about to teach him the basic principles but Zen spoke up. Master, is this the first stage? Zen thrust his fist forward, a pure force gushing out of it and breaking through the purple mist in front of him. It formed an outline of his fist. Joy remained calm at this, and said, if you have comprehended the method of power shaping, why didn't I see you use it in the arena of legends? Since he was so talented, it wasn't strange to Joy that Zen had mastered this by himself. Zen didn't answer. He continued demonstrating and said, is this the second stage? He shook his fist slightly and waved his hand in the purple mist. Gradually, the outline of a long sword appeared in Zen's hand. Only now did Joy show any semblance of surprise. She hadn't thought that Zen, a proving godly warrior, could have cultivated the power shaping to such a high level. In fact, without the cross-world theurgy, Zen couldn't have learned anything about power shaping. After all, power shaping was just one feature of the cross-world theurgy. Zen grinned at Joy and grabbed the invisible sword. With a gentle wave, the sword flew into the purple mist and back, leaving a clear trail in the mist. Is this the third stage? Zen asked, turning to look at Joy. Chapter 1853, The Origin of the Purple Power World. It did not surprise Joy when Zen employed the first stage of power shaping. It proved not difficult for Zen to comprehend and practice the basic skill of the power shaping through the might godly way. He had mastered so many godly ways, and could cultivate the purple or a godly way. Learning the second stage of the power shaping, which required the warrior to have extensive understanding of the power, was a challenge. The power of the 8 path platforms was obviously not enough to help Zen master the second stage. That was why Joy was astonished when he actually did it. Zen had even been able to let the long sword, which was formed by the power, fly. It was inconceivable. Even a consummate true god would be unable to do that, no matter if they had formed the 9 divine stars. Once the power was used and released by the one who controlled it, it would become complete chaos and out of control. It was another reason brute power was not valued in the divine land. Once one reached the cultivation level that Joy was at, they could give full play to their power after using the cross-world theurgy. However, holy beings normally did not need that kind of pure power. It was why Holy J had destroyed the 9 stars after creating the divine refinement Forbidden Land. He had poured the strength source into a large pool, and gave some of it to others from time to time. If someone was at a low cultivation level, they couldn't use the power. When they were at a higher cultivation level, however, there was no need to use the power. It was an embarrassment of the body refiners. Joy had made an exception in this case though. She fused the 9 divine stars with her inner world. Her inner world was the purple skyland, and had been built through the purple or a godly way. This meant that it was not an intact universe, so she would only become a demi-holy being. Despite the fact that Joy didn't have a complete universe, she owned an omnipotent cross-world theurgy. From her understanding of the purple or a godly way, she was able to use all her strength to create a massive invisible sword array. The additional strength she had left was used to give full play to the cross-world theurgy and the power shaping. It was Joy's most powerful skill, and she had the utmost confidence in it. In all her experience and knowledge, that far surpassed any ordinary true gods, she never thought that what was occurring in front of her would ever be possible. She might just be a demi-holy being, but she was still incredibly powerful. The fact that a proving godly warrior was so easily able to do that blew her mind. She was silent for a long while before mumbling, "No wonder. Judging by your performance in the arena of legends, it is still difficult for you to kill Sheridan. It is even more impossible for you to hurt Langston. Now I see the reason." When Joy's words reached his ears, Zen sighed. He knew Joy was indeed an outstanding demi-holy being with considerable insight. Even though she had not seen Zen fight Langston, she still knew why he had been able to hurt Langston. "Since you're going to teach me the power shaping, will I reach the level as high as yours?" Zen asked once more. Zen's control of the strength source was limited. He didn't exert the cross-world theurgy to its fullest power. Joy was the top master in this field. Zen would never miss such a good opportunity to learn a great skill from the master. After all, it would make Zen more confident to face the low-rank true gods with high rankings in the Hall of True Gods. Joy's expression became disdainful. Although the power shaping was the theurgy beyond the strength godly way, there were many people practicing it. Joy had managed to become a demi-holy being because of it, and that had its own advantages. She had only planned to teach Zen the simple power shaping. There had been no intention for her to teach him the second stage, let alone the third stage. Zen might call her master, but he wasn't her disciple at all. However, it might prove to be a good decision to take Zen, Mike's son, as a disciple. "I have never imparted this theurgy to outsiders, but if you become my disciple, I will consider teaching you," said Joy. If Joy's disciples could build the purple sky land, their strength would improve greatly. Their possibility of becoming a demi-holy being was much higher than that of an ordinary top-rank true god. Unfortunately, up to now, no disciples had built the purple sky land, and no one could get the real supreme skills Joy had. Now though, an excellent candidate had popped up. Zen was only a proving godly warrior, but he possessed all the conditions for cultivating Joy's theurgy. In most cases, such conditions shouldn't even appear on a true god at all, let alone a proving godly warrior. The fact Zen showed this amount of promise surprised Joy. Joy was obviously interested in Zen becoming her disciple. "I have a master. My master is Bromley Gu," Zen answered simply. Since Joy already knew his identity, he didn't worry about revealing more information to her. A look of frustration crossed her face. She should have thought about it earlier. Bromley and Mike used to be on good terms, and now that Mike had suffered, it was impossible for Bromley not to help him. "But if you can teach me this unique skill, I will practice it painstakingly," Zen said with a smile. At this stage, he didn't dare use the emotion-closing godly way, or let the chaotic energy be revealed so easily. Furthermore, the enemy-repelling arts, which could cut off cause and effect, was useless in the Divine Land. Although there was also the law of causality in the Divine Land wasn't the universe. Mike had created the enemy-repelling arts in order to cut the cause and destroy the effect. However, the Divine Land was not built by Mike, and the power would be useless here. Joy's stare became hard as steel. Since Zen was Mike's son, she would make an exception, but she was disappointed by this outcome. "In that case, I can teach you the God's Killing Sword Array," she said reluctantly. "What? The God's Killing Sword Array?" Zen was stunned. "You've heard of it?" Joy asked, staring at Zen. Although she was a demi-holy being, Joy did not have the privilege of going in and out of the Hall of Holy Beings like the Holy Emperors of Floating Islands did. During the war within the evolutionary universe, she worried for Mike's safety, but the Hall of Holy Beings had shut down at that time, so she was unable to get in touch with the Holy Emperor of the Han clan. Even the upper floating islands shut doors to the outside. After the war in the universe had ended, the evolutionary universe was now safe and sound. Murphy had been punished as the antagonist of the universe war, and for violating the ruling slate. Learning of this news had made Joy incredibly happy. However, she was in the dark as to the process and the details of the battle between the Murphy universe and the evolutionary universe. Therefore, she naturally had no idea that Margaret had used the God's killing sword array in the evolutionary universe. Yes, Zen said softly. As Zen was thinking, he realized there was something strange going on. There had to be some kind of connection here. Although the purple power world in the evolutionary universe was incomplete, it was very similar to the purple skyland. Margaret started to cultivate the sword array in the purple power world, and she had mastered the God's killing sword array in the divine refinement forbidden land. What was the connection then? While Zen was considering his inner thoughts, Joy became overjoyed. If you have truly seen the God's killing sword array, then it couldn't be in the divine land. It must be in the evolutionary universe. According to the original agreement, there is a warrior with the first-rank purple power body in the purple power world. Margaret did indeed possess the first-rank purple power body. However, the rank division of the purple power body in the evolutionary universe seemed to be different than that of the divine land. At least he hadn't heard that the purple power bodies of the disciples in the purple soul hall would be divided into several ranks. Joy's words seemed to dredge up a lot of memories for Zen. The purple power world was special and incomplete supreme world. The rules of the evolutionary universe did not completely rule over this supreme world, and the purple power world hadn't seemed to have undergone the great extinction during the recurrent grand eras. Zen was lost in thought for a long while, and when he came to the conclusion he looked at Joy. Joy knew what Zen wanted to confirm, so she said, "You're right. The purple power world is where I resided before. Your father has specially created it for me, and the God's killing sword array was created by your father and me. I have promised him that if a warrior with the first-rank purple power body in the evolutionary universe existed, I would naturally let this warrior inherit the God's killing sword array. But I am not sure how Mike has arranged this matter." She paused to collect her thoughts, curiosity flitting across her face. "As you have seen the God's killing sword array, you must know who is the one to employ it. Who is it? Does that warrior travel to the divine land?" Zen took a moment to think. After Zen stole into the divine land, he had been staying in the vast sky region. He had been confused as to why he had reached the Han clan's territory, but now he understood that this was his father's intention. His father hoped that he could rely on Joy. He placed a finger on his nose, and replied unnaturally quietly, "The one who has displayed the God's killing sword array is my wife." Chapter 1854. Four Swords Change. When Joy first met Mike, she was just a mid-rank true god. However, she was a key member and warrior of the Han clan. The research on the purple or a godly way wasn't as advanced then as it was now, and the creation of the purple skyland was an uncertainty as it was no easy task to create a universe in the divine land. Except for the formation and control, the purple or a godly way was much weaker than other godly ways on many aspects. As time went by, Mike asked Joy to enter his universe to open a world. Joy tried to build the purple skyland in the universe. This was how the purple power world came into existence. Thus, it was quite easier for Joy to build a world in the evolutionary universe as compared to doing so in the divine land. Not to mention the fact that she had Mike's backing as well. Joy was quite talented. After she created the purple power world, she created many great sword arrays, among which the God's killing sword array was the most powerful one. As Joy was fully satisfied with her creation, Mike pointed out that the swords that the most powerful God's killing sword array was using were not real swords, but they were rather illusory swords. He also drew attention to the fact that the so-called illusory swords were invisible, and were made by the power shaping which forced the power out of one's body. Joy wasn't a demi-holy being at that time, so she quite couldn't exert the cross-world theurgy. She was only able to practice the second stage of the power shaping and was still unable to do away with the real swords, the Long Vine sword, the Buddha Emperor sword, the Grand Sun sword and the Heavenly Tooth sword which were given to her by Mike. Joy no longer used the four swords now, but she still kept them, as they reminded her of the wonderful time she spent in the evolutionary universe. Mike also had Joy's support when there was trouble on the Luo clan's floating island. However, she was just a top-rank true god at that time, and she couldn't cultivate the illusory swords of the God's killing sword array. She was willing to help the Luo clan but was ordered to stay on the Han clan's floating island. The Han clan went to the extent of assigning a consummate true god to her, who watched her closely. Thus, she was unable to slip by. Thus, she sat idly by and watched Mike suffer. Those were dark days for Joy. She vowed that she would try to help Harold and others, if opportunity arose. She also wondered if Mike would come back, since he and his universe were immortal after all. She just waited for the right moment to come by. However, Harold didn't like the idea of her helping him as he was quite aggressive towards Joy. She recalled the time when she met Harold on the Everest Spirit Mountain and he actually wanted to kill her. Today, as Zen's true identity surfaced up, she finally understood that this might all have been Mike's brilliant plan. Zen was just like Mike. They both had the same luck with the women. Many years ago, after she left the evolutionary universe, the purple power world had not been wiped out and she had left her inheritance inside it, especially the gods killing sword array. She made a deal with Mike that if there appeared a first-rank purple power body in the evolutionary universe, the one would inherit all. Mike jokingly told Joy that no one could have the purple power body like she had, as she was quite unique. Unless Mike made a purple power body, only then the one with the purple power body would be qualified to inherit Joy's belongings. Since the first-rank purple power body came into being, Joy thought that she might have been created by Mike. She did not expect that the woman who owned the first-rank purple power body and inherited her gods killing sword array was actually Zen's wife. Joy smiled and asked, "Has she entered the divine land yet?" Zen shook his head and said, "I'm not sure." Zen took Letitia and his other families to the fairy palace. But Zen didn't let Margaret enter the fairy palace, much to her protests. As one of the 10 godly geniuses, Margaret was destined to have her own path. According to the arrangement of Wynne, she should have been able to come to the divine land as soon as she got her godly tile. She already went through the process of blood exchange and Harold was still struggling with the Zhang clan in order to create an opportunity for the godly geniuses. By the time Zen left the evolutionary universe, Rocher was long gone. He always wondered how the other godly geniuses were doing and whether they were able to make it to the divine land or not. Suddenly Joy spoke. According to Mike's plan, she should be smuggled to the ancestral land of the Han clan as well. A warrior like her should be trained by me personally. I'll have some people look for the woman with the purple power body in the regions under the control of the Han clan. What's her name? Joy inquired. Margaret Shi, Zen replied. But it would be quite difficult to find her in the divine land as it is likely that she'd be using a fake name. The divine land's length lay no bounds. It was quite enormous. The fact that Zen was able to see Joy was due to a plan that he came up with, and at the same time he relied on his talent to enter the floating island, though he became a member of the Purple Soul Hall by accident. Don't worry, it's not a big deal, Joy said, shaking her head. She had made up her mind. She had missed a chance many years ago, and this time she would not be absent anyway. Then she continued, let's just talk about the gods killing sword array. Only those who possess the cross-world theurgy can do what you have done. What kind of an inner world did you build? How can you use it even without forming the godly tile? Zen gave a dull smile and said, that's one of the reasons why I can't form a godly tile. Aren't you able to form a godly tile? Joy appeared lost in her thoughts. She knew how important Zen was to Mike. If Zen couldn't condense a godly tile, it wasn't because Zen wasn't talented enough, but because the godly tile Zen wanted to condense was special or the inner world he constructed was special. Mike and Bromley were the two most creative holy beings in the divine land. It was quite normal for them to cultivate someone like Zen. But if he couldn't form his godly tile, it would be a huge trouble. Joy asked Zen, do you need my help with it? Zen shook his head and said, I've made a breakthrough. I have found a solution. He didn't want to tell Joy because it was of no use. Even Bromley wasn't able to help him in this problem. But since Zen had found more mud, he only had to get enough points in the arena of legends in order to get the mud and condense the godly tile. Seeing Zen's confidence, Joy changed the subject and said, since Margaret has been able to cultivate the gods killing sword array, and since she is your wife, you must have seen the gods killing sword array. Yes, I have. I have also seen the Purple River sword array, the two-mode sword array. Before Zen could finish his sentence, Joy said, they all used to be my sword arrays back in the day, but I could only use the real swords back then. Although the gods killing sword array is powerful, it has a huge limit. Joy later became the demi-holy being and succeeded in using the illusory swords. After she mastered the power shaping, she had a new understanding of the gods killing sword array. She was aware that the power of a sword activated by the crossword theurgy would be much more powerful and the change in it would be much more rapid. She was also aware that the strength in it would be more than 100 times stronger. As Joy spoke, she calmly waved her hands. The calm and peace was interrupted by a swishing sound. Zen saw Joy's power transformed into dozens of invisible swords and they flew aimlessly, in all directions. Thousands of invisible, colorless long swords pierced through the purple mist, leaving the shadows of the swords. Zen was soon surrounded by the sword shadows. Joy gave Zen a faint smile and said, at the beginning, the gods killing sword array only had the 4 swords change. Later, I figured out the 32 swords change, the 96 swords change, and other techniques. You have mastered the cross-world theurgy. Moreover, you can cultivate the Grand Purple Aura technique. It should not be difficult for you to learn it. Today, I'm teaching you the Four Swords Change. The Four Swords Change was personally made for me by your father, and today I'm teaching his son. Chapter 1855. Concentrating on cultivation. Zen had seen Margaret yield the God's killing sword array before. He knew that its power was truly formidable. Back then, Margaret was only a world lord, yet with the God's killing sword array, she had defeated many supreme lords. It was well known that at least 5 supreme lords had been killed at the hand of this skill. The 4 swords that Margaret used were created by the divine textures of the celestial position race, greatly reducing their power. If Zen truly mastered the 4 swords change of the God's killing sword array to the point of using it well, his strength would improve remarkably. As soon as Joy finished speaking, countless invisible swords began swarming around in a purple mist, merging into 4 distinct swords. Zen could only just make out their shapes. Vines weaved around one of the swords, their irregular curves twisting around the blade. Zen recognized it as the long vine sword. The second sword's hilt was fashioned into a sitting Buddha, with its blade as wide as a wheel, the Buddha Emperor sword. The next sword had many layers much like a pagoda, the Grand Sun sword. The last sword was filled with sharp spines, making up the distinct look of the Heavenly Tooth sword. Use your power shaping and create the same 4 swords, ordered Joy. Why? Zen asked. Do the shapes of the swords truly matter that much? Was it truly necessary that the God's killing sword array was made up of the same 4 swords? With his power shaping, he was capable of creating swords into so many other various shapes. Cut the garbage, Joy snapped. As a demi-holy being, she was being more generous by teaching Zen the skills she had acquired, and yet he was incredulous enough to question her. Okay, Zen finally nodded obediently. Without another word, he summoned the strength of the 9 divine stars. Zen hadn't actually mastered the true power shaping skill. With only the power of the 8 path platforms, it would have been impossible, but by using the cross-world theurgy, he realized that he could still shape things to his will. That meant he was effectively bypassing the second stage of power shaping and going straight to the third stage. Whoosh! The power of the cross-world theurgy came rushing through him, transforming into the sword's very shapes. First that started coming into form was the long vine sword. Keeping the shape of Joy's sword in his mind, soon, Zen made an identical long vine sword appear in front of him, only a tad smaller in size. It turned out to be a piece of cake for him. Okay, the second sword. When he began shaping the second sword, the long vine sword suddenly trembled until it immediately dissipated. What? Zen scratched his head in confusion and embarrassment. Joy merely sneered and asked, didn't you understand the internal momentum of the Grand Purple Aura technique? Don't you already know of the separate controlling skill? But what she didn't know was that Zen himself wasn't grasping the Grand Purple Aura technique, it was the infinity ruler in his brain that did it. The 2 most prominent skills of the Grand Purple Aura technique included shaping and controlling things. Margaret had a first-rank purple power body, born with a strong controlling ability, allowing her to order millions of huge swords simultaneously. Still, it was much easier to order those huge swords than Zen's current task. He needed to maintain the shape of the long vine sword while shaping the second sword. Without grasping the purple or a godly way, it was an arduous task for Zen. After Joy's guidance, a purple light flashed upon a small scale of the infinity ruler in his brain. At the same time, a purple light flashed in his very eyes. The internal momentum of the purple or a godly way. While he was still meditating, Zen shaped the long vine sword once again. And with a gentle wave of his hand, he began carefully extracting the strength source. The second sword, whoosh, it was the Buddha Emperor sword. This time, he managed to shape the second sword. But he didn't remain complacent about it. With determination filling his eyes, he seized the moment and went further. The third sword, whoosh, while maintaining the first 2 swords, he managed to shape the third one successfully. But that lasted barely over a second before the 3 swords dispersed all at once. No good. Try again. Joy snorted at him. Contempt was evident on her face, but that was to disguise the deep shock in her heart. It seemed that Mike's son was a truly gifted warrior. When she had only just become a demi-holy being and mastered the cross-world theurgy, she thought about how to transform the God's killing sword array. According to Mike's guidance, she had tried to create the 4 swords through power shaping, just as Zen was doing. Back then, it had taken her a full month before managing to maintain the 2 swords simultaneously, and another half year to maintain 3 whole swords. For mortals, half a year was a long period. But for Joy and the other true gods, it was nothing more than the blink of an eye, and she had been quite satisfied with her quick progress. But now, Zen had only tried to do it twice and yet he managed to shape 3 swords all at once. The sight, without a doubt, hurt Joy's self-confidence. She couldn't help but wonder whether she was inadequate or if Zen was just too talented. Okay, I'll try it again. I've just begun to cultivate this skill. Why must you be so harsh? Zen mumbled complaints, feeling that Joy was all too strict with him. What are you muttering to yourself? Joy asked sullenly. To that, Zen only curled his lips and didn't dare complain anymore. Instead, he continued to extract strength source for power shaping. During the 3rd attempt, Zen managed to maintain 3 swords for 9 whole seconds before they broke down. At the 4th attempt, the process successfully lasted for a full minute. At the 5th attempt, 2 minutes and a half. At the 6th attempt, 5 minutes. By his 7th attempt, he was able to maintain 3 swords for a remarkably long time. How is it now? Still bad? Zen asked with a smile, catching his breath. Not bad, Joy replied, calmly this time. Mixed feelings surged into her heart as she began doubting her talent again. He resembles his father so much, she thought. In the past, when she had a crush on Mike and accompanied him on his cultivation in the evolutionary universe, she was astonished by Mike's outstanding talent and understanding ability over and over again. But thanks to his strict guidance, she managed to improve rather quickly. Back then, she realized that she was probably unlikely to ever surpass this man in her whole life. But since Mike was already a holy being at that time, along with the fact that she admired and adored him, it didn't depress her so much that she was inferior to him. Instead, she could accept it as a matter of fact. But here before her was his son, a mere proving godly warrior, showing the same astonishing talent. Depression and jealousy filled her heart. Even if she was already a demi-holy being, she couldn't quite handle the frustration. Since you can maintain 3 swords now, you should be able to shape the 4th sword, she ordered. I've already slowed down the time flow rate in the Purple Sky Land. You can continue cultivating here. But time was still too limited for him. There were only 2 months before the new ranking of the floating islands was to be established. If he wasted a few months in the Purple Sky Land before the new ranking was established, the Purple Soul Hall would probably have no choice but to dismiss 80% of its disciples. Naturally, forming 4 swords was miles harder than only 3. It was no surprise that he failed to do so on his first try. But there was no change in his expression, he didn't even blink. He only continued to patiently stimulate his strength source again. Staring at him from behind, Joy remained silent, her eyes turning glassy. Zen looked very much like Mike when he was focused on practicing the martial arts. She couldn't help but fall back into memories. She recalled the old days when she was practicing in the Purple Power World. In order to help her cultivate, Mike asked her to take a moment and close her eyes. When she opened them again, she saw the Purple Power World become a fairyland, a world of huge swords. 99.9 billion huge swords were densely packed in the sky of the Purple Power World. Controlling the swords at her will had her truly overjoyed. After 10 full days, Zen finally managed to maintain 4 swords for 3 seconds. It was something Joy managed only after 6 months of practice. Merely 2 months had passed in the Purple Sky Land and Zen was able to maintain 4 swords for 15 seconds. Half a year later, he could keep them up for a long period. During these 6 months, Zen seemed to have no other thoughts except for concentrating on shaping the swords. After they dissipated, he repeated the boring process over and over. Fortunately, Joy had already changed the time flow rate so that half a year in the Purple Sky Land was only 3 days in the outside world. Since he could maintain 4 swords at the same time now, Joy began teaching him the operation method of the God's Killing Sword Array. Chapter 1856. Trouble for the Clan. The God's Killing Sword Array was created by Joy herself, but the idea for the array had originally been provided by Mike. At that time, the 4 swords change was the most original God's Killing Sword Array, and even it still had many flaws. Later though, Joy became a demi-holy being, and the 4 swords array changed drastically. In terms of power alone, it became much stronger. I asked you to shape the power to the Long Vine Sword, the Buddha Emperor Sword, the Grand Sun Sword and the Heavenly Tooth Sword because the 4 swords have different abilities. The Long Vine Sword focuses on the array of entangling the enemy. The Buddha Emperor Sword's main ability is the killing array, the Grand Sun Sword is mainly used for defensive array, and the Heavenly Tooth Sword forms the hunting array. In fact, the 32 swords change and the 96 swords change of the God's Killing Sword Array have broken through these constraints, but now, you cannot master the 32 swords change. And the 4 swords change is based on these initial 4 swords. The 4 swords each had their own single sword changes, and they respectively corresponded to entanglement, killing, defense, and hunting. When the 2 swords cooperated with each other, they could combine their arrays and create something even more powerful, like the entangling killing array or the entangling hunting array. Furthermore, there were also many changes, including the cooperation of 3 swords and 4 swords at the same time. On the one hand, Zen had to maintain these powerful swords in perfect balance, and on the other hand, he had to master their respective coordination. This was a great feat, even for Zen, to say the least. Fortunately, time was controllable in the Purple Sky Land, and with Joy's help, his understanding of the god's killing sword array increased little by little. In just a month's time, Zen had already obtained a small achievement. He had mastered the change of a single sword. In other words, he could now make the most of any sword he laid his hands on. After 3 months, Zen had mastered the use of 2 swords. Swordsmanship with double swords offered more mysterious changes and was generally better in both power and flexibility. Half a year later, Zen had enabled the capacity of performing with 3 swords together. Using 3 swords at once was the god's killing sword array's essence, and notably, it was also considered a unique skill. It took Zen an entire year to completely grasp the technique of using 4 swords together, all at once. This was the god's killing sword array's ultimate kill attack. This was more difficult to attain because he not only needed to understand the array, but the characteristic of the 4 swords, too. As Joy watched how quickly Zen progressed, she felt calmer. Zen's father was a very gifted man, which indicated that Zen was destined to be special. Besides having inherited his father's amazing talent, he was equally bound to be even more terrifying than his father. Pondering things over, Joy knew deep inside herself that she had taught Zen to be a horrifying guy. The genuine god's killing sword array could only be mastered by demi-holy beings, or even holy beings. That said though, Zen, who was nothing more than a proving godly warrior, could perform it freely. Joy couldn't help but vaguely look forward to Zen's performance in the arena of legends. 1 full year in the Purple Sky Land was the equivalence of 6 days in the Divine Land. In addition to the year it took Zen to master the god's killing sword array, he had also spent 3 days shaping power before that. With the Divine Land's measurement of time, this whole process only took Zen 9 days. Joy left the Purple Sky Land with Zen and went back to her palace. Upon their arrival, a middle-aged man had been waiting there for a long time. His name was Alfredo, the Han clan master. Zen had met him once before. Joy was very angry with Alfredo, and upon seeing him, she certainly wasn't pleased. Instead, she asked coldly, "What brings you here?" With a hint of helplessness on his face, Alfredo stated, "The Xie clan has come to our land. We were wrong about this matter. I wonder how you're going to deal with the latter, being a demi-holy being." What happened was that Sheridan was killed on the Han clan's floating island, and the murderer was a Han clan disciple with a different surname. Between the wealthy and influential clans, this sort of thing had to be explained. The Xie clan thus sent people here to attend to this matter several times, but because of Joy, the Han clan had been avoiding such. In a fit of rage, the Xie clan chose to team up with both the Leng clan and the Lu clan in order to put pressure on the Han clan. Despite that, Alfredo felt no scruples toward the Xie clan and the Lu clan. Both clans, ranked first and second from the bottom respectively, became 2 of the wealthiest and most influential clans just because they rode on others' coattails and had the possibility of being eliminated one day. Even wealthy and influential clans must have holy beings, and the Xie clan and the Lu clan were no exceptions. They did indeed have 2 holy beings, but not every family with a holy being was bound to be a wealthy and influential clan. The Leng clan's sudden request took Alfredo by surprise. Considering the conflict between Laquisha and Langston that day, he could only guess that that was the problem. Although he had been clear about it, he still wanted to throw the big problem at Joy. How does it have anything to do with the Leng clan when it's the Xie clan that wants an explanation? Is the Leng clan even qualified to comment on this? Laquisha replied in a cold tone of voice. It wasn't really a big deal, though. The Xie clan had a lot of direct descendants, and Sheridan wasn't the best of them. Because this descendant had wanted to bring Zen to his death, he brought about nothing more than his own humiliation when it was Zen that killed him instead. The only remaining problem was Zen's identity. To the Han clan, he was just an outsider. You know that the ranking is very important to our Han clan, and that the Leng clan will help us. For this reason, the Holy Emperor has even agreed Laquisha and Langston's marriage. I'm telling you this because I don't want this matter to affect our relationship with the Leng clan. Laquisha and Langston's marriage was only the beginning of an alliance between the 2 clans. It wasn't important in any way at all. Now though, a conflict involving these two clans arose. This was definitely not something Alfredo wanted to see. As it stands right now, as long as we push that guy out, we can easily solve this problem, Alfredo said, casting an indifferent glance toward Zen. Zen's crazy talk annoyed Alfredo, who was standing in front of him. Who cared if Zen had showed extraordinary strength when he killed Sheridan and hurt Langston, right? The Han clan wasn't lacking in masters, nor in talents. Offending the Lang clan for something so futile as a mere outsider just wasn't worth it. The easiest way to appease their anger was to give them Zen. To Alfredo, Zen was just a little grasshopper. So what if he was strong? He was still nothing more than a strong grasshopper, and he felt no pity for sacrificing him. As a member of the high position, this was a rightful way of thinking. Even if Joy didn't know Zen's true identity, she would definitely protect him. Moreover, she knew that Zen was Mike's son, so how could she possibly agree with Alfredo anyway? I don't know what the Holy Emperor is doing. Seeing as you want to conceal the problem in the ranking so badly from me, then you can continue to conceal it. But I won't push that out. If the Lang clan comes to question such, let them come to me. Didn't I make everything clear to you at the spiritual heart hall the other day? Joy uttered without emotion. This time, Alfredo didn't budge an inch. He replied stiffly, "Don't force me to go to the Holy Emperor. You can ask him to question me. I'll give him the exact same answer and..." Joy continued, "Even without the Lang clan's help, it's still possible our Han clan to maintain our current rank." "With what? Your Purple Soul Hall?" Alfredo sneered. As far as Alfredo knew, Joy had mobilized female disciples of the Purple Soul Hall to make a breakthrough in their rankings and points in the arena of legends. Recently though, while those great clans were hard at work, the Purple Soul Hall's ranking hadn't risen, but instead had gone down. All the disciples' points had only risen a little. The ranking just clearly couldn't be improved by disciples' willpower alone. Their talent and strength needed to be considered as well. 2 months later, you'll see the results. Asking me to hand that over to them is wishful thinking, and you know it. I don't want you to come to me for this matter again, said Joy coldly. Joy's firm words went hand in hand with her attitude, and Alfredo looked at Zen with confusion. Joy had once protected Zen, and Alfredo could understand. After all, there were very few talents in the Purple Soul Hall, so it was only normal that Joy didn't want to give up on the little guy. That said though, today, her performance had gone overboard. Was it possible that Thad Luo had a special background? A smart person like Alfredo could always guess at different possibilities. He knew how Joy had grown up. She didn't rely on the Han clan's Holy Emperor because, at the time, the purple power body wasn't highly valued in rich clans. In fact, Mike was the one who helped her become a demi-holy being. Thad's surname is also Luo. Is he one of Mike's descendants? Alfredo wondered to himself. Joy's conjecture was confirmed by Laquisha and Elena, but there was no evidence to confirm Alfredo's. In other words, he could only secretly make blind and disorderly estimates. At the same time, he wondered why Joy was so confident. Did she really have the ability to bring the Purple Soul Hall's points up to a higher level? If she could really manage such a thing, she'd have the possibility of keeping the ranking of the Han clan's floating island, and even to become 1 or 2 places higher. Chapter 1857. Consecutive Victories. At this point, Alfredo could only let out an awkward smile. On that note, he turned around and left reluctantly without another word. Around the same time, Joy turned to Zen and said, "Don't blame him. Everyone has their own responsibility." Alfredo had been wanting to drive Zen out of the Han clan's floating island ever since he heard Sheridan was killed by him. As the head of the Han clan, it was appropriate for him to do so in order to seek the best interest of the clan and to make sure he kept everything as hands-on as possible. "I know," Zen responded. "And my responsibility is to earn as many points as I can." He let out a faint sigh and smiled. Everyone faces challenges, and anyone in high position or authority is not an exception to that. When one is not strong enough, they can't blame others who have ignored them. In the end, it's really the survival of the fittest. Through it all, Joy was afraid that Zen would burst in anger at Alfredo. She was relieved to see Zen's calm expression. She sighed and giggled, wondering how well Mike was able to train Zen for him to be such an excellent young man. She knew that Holy J had a knack for studying and solving difficult problems, Holy Bromley was good at exploring and creating, and Holy Mike had expertise in strategic planning and organizing overall arrangements. In the past, Mike, who had previously made a few mistakes, was attacked by the members of the Hall of Holy Beings and got into a dangerous situation. For sure, he must have already planned to make Zen avenge himself. However, Joy didn't expect that the entire evolutionary universe was created by Mike, just for Zen. Of course, it was impossible for Mike to take everything under his control. But for some reason, luck was on his side and his strategy brought out the best results. At the very least, Zen had achieved Mike's expectations step by step over the years that he had been training. Now, Zen had walked more than half of the way, and was finally walking away for good. The remaining path was the most difficult part. Meanwhile, in the Hall of True Gods, Zen swung open the door. Everyone who saw him was brought to a commotion, and whispers started to fill the air once again. There were only 2 months left before the rankings of floating islands above the time sea would be determined. In order to keep their disciples motivated and determined, the wealthy clans on the floating islands had announced various tempting rewards one after another. Because of this, the atmosphere in the Hall of True Gods grew tenser and tenser the closer the deadline got. Some disciples from the big clans who used to stay long enough to finish 3 matches and then make their way home, were now hovering around in the Hall of True Gods all day long. During this time, the Jade Wall of Legends grew to become extremely popular. In order to enter the arena of legends, competitions would often take place in front of the Jade Wall among the warriors. 2 months. There's not much time left for me, said Zen. He looked over at the low-ranked True Gods in the Hall of True Gods before returning to his room. There, he was to choose his opponent for his battle. Once his door closed, people began to whisper and wonder again. It seems that Anonymous Man is back. For some reason, he didn't choose his opponent, nor did he give others the chance to choose him. He should be planning to choose his opponent at random. How confident of him. According to the rules of the Hall of True Gods, it was unnecessary to gather in the hall like how everyone was doing. If one had confidence in their own strength, all they had to do was choose someone at random and defeat them. It was that simple. In fact, for the vast majority of the low-ranked True Gods, it was common knowledge to choose your opponent carefully so that you could have advantage in battle. At this point, people had learned to restrain their auras to appear weak. They would do anything and everything to increase their chances of winning. Other than choosing an opponent, warriors could also come into an agreement with someone in the Hall of True Gods in which the winner of the fight would obtain a certain amount of divine might coins. They did this to make the battles more exciting for themselves. However, Zen was only interested in earning points as he was 100% confident in his strength and abilities. Hence, he didn't once take a glance of interest in the battles that were fought for divine might coins. But even though he was not interested, people paid a lot of attention to him. As a proving godly warrior, he was so conspicuous among those True Gods. When the Anonymous Man had just won 2 consecutive wins, he drew the attention of a few powerful clans on the floating islands. Zen, regarded as the Anonymous Man, challenged warriors who were way above his level, yet he still managed to win 2 consecutive wins. This was something very unusual, and that was why people were drawn to it. Later on, Zen won 4 matches in a row, which naturally caused more commotion among the people. After seeing his advances, wealthy clans on the floating islands began to investigate Zen's identity in secret, but he didn't show anything special from the beginning to the end. The 4 men who went against Zen also got nothing about his identity, and the only thing they noticed was the 2 golden rays of light in Zen's eyes. They resembled the eyes of Fire God, but they couldn't be sure because he didn't use the theurgy of the eyes of Fire God. The clans began to pay closer attention to the Anonymous Man. If anyone was able to gather information, these people would naturally report it to their own clans for advantage. In the past few years, the rankings of the floating islands happened to be very stable and organized. Because of this, all the powerful clans already knew who was in the lead, and who was falling behind. It was rare for them to guess it wrong. For example, the Han clan was in danger of falling out of the top 10. This led them to become allies with the Leng clan, so they could both boost up their rankings. However, Zen's presence made the battle unpredictable. As he continued to win, it directly affected the clan rankings, so there was a need to monitor him throughout the process. The moment Zen returned to his room, the door to his room flashed with blue light and began to float upward. His ranking had been increased more than 30 places. So fast. Plus, considering the time he spent in finding his opponent when he went back to his room, it only took him less than a minute to find and defeat his opponent, another low-ranked True God. He has already had 5 victories in a row. This is truly something to worry about. Which clan did they say he was from? The doors in the Hall of True Gods continued to shift from rays of light up and down. This wasn't a surprise to anyone, but none of them were attracted to any of the doors aside from Zen's. Around 5 minutes after Zen won his 5th round, the door began to move upwards once again. Just like that, he was at his 6th consecutive win. Zen easily dominated his matches. What made him feel the most accomplished was being able to smoothly absorb the internal momentum of 2 new godly ways throughout these matches. Moreover, the extra reward points doubled, so he gained more than 1,200 points, which shocked himself. However, according to what Joy had told him, Zen didn't use the God's killing sword array at all. In the eyes of the holy beings of the wealthy clans on the floating islands, the God's killing sword array was equivalent to Joy. As a demi-holy being, she was able to fight against with a holy being with the assistance of this particular array. Many of them did not pay enough attention to the cross-world Thurgy. Joy, on the other hand, was able to use the powers shaping in the cross-world Thurgy to their maximum potential. The only difference between Joy and the holy beings was that her purple sky land did not guarantee her immortality. The holy beings, however, for as long as the universes they created were immortal, they would be immortal. In the end, she wished for Zen to be a variable of the Han clan. If Zen earned a great deal of points and gave them to the Purple Soul Hall when it was necessary, he might as well be the key to increasing the rank of Han clan's floating island. But if he executed the God's killing sword array earlier than he should, wealthy clans on the floating islands, such as the Qin clan and Tang clan, would know the anonymous man was from the Han clan and suppress their points. Zen had to play smart in his battles, using only his own strength and soul to deal with his opponents. 2 hours had passed and Zen had just bagged 7 consecutive wins, while the extra points in one single round had increased to 1,000 points. 2 hours turned into 4, and at this point, Zen had won 9 consecutive wins. The extra points for one round had increased to 2,600 points, and it looked like nothing was going to stop him. 4 hours turned into a quick 6 hours, and Zen was standing with 10 consecutive victories. The extra points amounted to 4,700. His door's ranking was also getting higher and higher around the Hall of True Gods, and it was almost so high that people couldn't even see it anymore. Eventually, the noises in the Hall of True Gods began to fade into softened tones. When they saw this scene, many of the warriors began to retreat to their clans in dismay. Can you believe it? The anonymous man has accumulated 10 consecutive wins already. If he wins one more, he'll obtain 8,300 points. He definitely has potential to beat warriors with higher cultivation levels than him, and he has never lost one battle. Does anyone know what clan he is from? This is a crisis. If that guy is from the Zhou clan, our Bai clan would be suppressed. But okay, this is also an opportunity, people. Imagine it, if we defeat the anonymous man, we can gain his points, too. Just where is he from? He's been a mystery throughout all the battles. He has never been defeated when he was fighting against proving godly warriors, even his ranking has not appeared once. Why is it so impossible to determine his identity? I want to challenge this man. Every time a person who took part in a battle that was beyond their cultivation level appeared, the true gods in the arena of legends would fuss like never before. It left people enraged, giddy, and perplexed all at the same time. Historically, powerful clans hated people who challenged warriors with higher cultivation levels because it broke the balance among the clans. What made it worse was that no one knew who he was, which made them very suspicious and frankly, mistrusting. However, this was also a huge opportunity. Everyone looked forward to garnering his points, and some low-rank true gods, who were highly confident in their strengths, were now eager to get a fight out of Zen. To their disappointment, Zen had no plans to leave his room. He was still going to choose his opponents at random, so everyone waiting just had to bank on their luck in order to fight him. Chapter 1858. A tough fat guy. Zen's ranking had risen rapidly in the Hall of True Gods, drawing unprecedented attention to himself. But he himself didn't know this. After attaining 10 consecutive wins, Zen finally decided to pause for a breath of some fresh air in the Hall of True Gods. The moment he opened the door, he saw that the entrance of the room was crowded with low-rank true gods, who were waiting for him. The low-rank true gods were taken by surprise as they didn't expect Zen to get out of his room this moment. They were in the midst of exchanging information on the anonymous man that they had mastered. Everybody whispered among themselves, trying to guess the identity of the anonymous man. When the door opened, everyone immediately fell quiet at the same time. This scene was very strange. Zen glanced at everyone and asked indifferently, "Are you all waiting for me? What's up?" The low-rank true gods looked Zen up and down, trying to find some clues as to his identity. However, Zen did not have any specific features that would reveal the mystery. In order to maintain the enigma, he had specially turned his long robe into a light blue one. "I want to challenge you," someone shouted boldly. After the first low-rank true god threw this challenge, all the others followed suit and started challenging Zen. Can I challenge you? There are 70 rankings between us. Choose me. In the arena of legends, very few people were as popular as Zen. They thought that if this anonymous man participated in the battles against low-ranked true gods, he was likely to be defeated. If someone won a duel with the anonymous man, they would also gain a great number of points from him. And even if they were defeated by the anonymous man, they would only lose a small amount of points, so it was a risk everyone was willing to take. If you defeat me, I will give you another 20 divine might coins. Someone offered in an attempt to goad Zen into fighting him. 20 divine might coins were not a big number for the low-ranked true gods on the floating islands. So more people started bribing him, subsequently increasing the amount. If you accept my challenge, I will give you 80 divine might coins. If you can defeat me, 200 divine might coins. 300. Soon it was like an auction. The true gods in front of Zen began to raise their offers one after another. I never expected that, Zen thought to himself, flabbergasted, as he stared at this crazy group. Unexpected as it was, he still wanted to see how it would play out. However, according to the rules of the Hall of True Gods, only the ones who were 100 ranks higher or lower than him were qualified to challenge Zen. The number of people in this category was only 200. Moreover, the warriors who rank low in the current rankings were not top-level warriors on the floating islands, so they naturally weren't very rich. After a few rounds of bidding, the highest bidder turned out to be a big fat man, who promised Zen 550 divine might coins. Earlier these people were so enthusiastic in challenging Zen because losing to him was not a big deal, but losing 550 divine might coins was something an ordinary person could not afford. Accept my challenge and I will give you 550 divine might coins. What do you say? The fatty said loudly and glared at Zen. Deal, Zen smiled. If he defeated the fatty, he could not only earn points but also earn a lot of divine might coins, so why not? It was a great deal. My room number is 760,008. The fatty was very happy and he hurried towards his room. Losing more than 500 divine might coins would indeed be very frustrating for the fat man, but in his eyes, it was a risk worth taking. His game plan, even if he lost, was that he would force Zen to use his trump card and thereby determine Zen's origin. As soon as Zen returned to his room, dozens of beams of light popped out from the wall. Actually, these were the dozens of requests to challenge him. Zen ignored those requests and accepted the challenge from the fat guy. Wow, the scenery around him changed, and a new terrain appeared around Zen. What? Astonishment was written all over Zen's face. Previously, the settings in the arena of legends were the same, a boundless plain with an incomparably clear starry sky. All the terrains had been exactly the same, without any change, from the time Zen had been fighting up until today. But this time it was different. His current environs were a world of ice and snow. Beneath his feet was a slippery layer of ice, and enormous fish were swimming under this layer. There were fist-sized snowflakes falling from the sky, with loud plops. Why is the environment of this arena of legends different from the others? Zen asked curiously. When the fat man heard Zen's astonished voice, he laughed and said, "You don't even know this." Zen shook his head and replied, "No, I really don't know. The environment of the arena of legends can be changed as per one's wish, but you need to pay a certain amount of points," the fatty said proudly. Change the environment. Zen looked around at the vast snow plain around him and said indifferently, "So this is not an illusion but a world based in reality. It's a world that would benefit the true gods who have cultivated the ice law or the snow godly way." "You're right," said the fatty with a grin. He raised his big belly and several icy marks congealed on it slowly. Soon the icy marks covered his fat body until he was wearing a piece of icy armor. "So you have cultivated the snow godly way." Zen wasn't interested in the fatty's theurgy. His infinity ruler had already absorbed the snow godly way. But this is unfair. Since the arena of legends is a place for the true gods to compete with each other, it should be as fair as a battle ring. If the environment of the arena of legends can be changed with points, then everyone can choose an optimal environment for themselves, right? The fatty chuckled again at Zen's complaints. He stretched out his round legs and stomped lightly on the ground. A frost whirlpool appeared on the ground, from which a long stick of 6 feet long appeared. The surface of the long stick was covered with snowflakes. He grabbed the long stick and continued, "If you think the arena of legends is just a battle ring, then you are wrong. The origin of the arena of legends is full of twists and turns, and the mysteries contained within it are far beyond your imagination. You can pursue anything you want here, except for fairness." Ha ha. What do you mean? Zen couldn't comprehend what the fatty was saying. The fatty didn't care about Zen's concerns anymore. He waved the long stick in his hand and jumped up to pounce on Zen. At the same time, a strange fog appeared under Zen's feet. The fog turned into snowflakes and quickly began unfurling. The temperature around him began to decrease rapidly, and his entire body became extremely slow. By contrast, the fatty was extremely agile. He arrived in front of Zen almost in an instant, and whacked him with the long stick on his head. Zen's expression did not change at all. He even did not block the attack. Instead, he simply reached out to grab the long stick. At this stage, Zen could suppress his opponent using just his brute force. As a result, he didn't need to think too much. Unexpectedly, the fatty revealed a strange smile at this moment. When Zen grabbed the long stick, it felt cold in his hand. The stick was actually a bunch of snowflakes. Zen chopped with his backhand and cut the fatty in his face. The fatty turned into a bunch of snowflakes and scattered on the ground. I have already known that you possess extraordinary brute force. But if you think you can defeat me only using strength, you are too naive. Ha ha ha. The strength and characteristics of the anonymous man had already spread among the low-rank true gods. Many low-rank true gods had studied Zen. The fatty was obviously well prepared. The fatty's voice rang out behind Zen. At the same time, a loud roar was heard. The fatty had excellent hiding skills. He disappeared all of a sudden and in the next moment, he was behind Zen's back, attacking him. Without a word, Zen turned his body, turned around and kicked the man. Swish, swish. With one kick, the fatty turned into a pile of snowflakes again. The snowflakes danced like thousands of silver bugs, painting a beautiful picture. Wrong again. The fatty chuckled and made another move. Once more, he appeared behind Zen. There were icy marks on the long white stick in his hand, and he suddenly brought it down on Zen's back. However, the stick only left a light icy mark on Zen's back, without causing substantial damage to him. After he attacked with this stick, he rolled like a ball to quickly distance himself from Zen. A hand, producing cold air, constantly stroked the top of the long stick, as if it was pouring something into it. He still wore a smug smile on his face, as if he was sure to win. Zen stood there, his face as solemn as never before. The fatty had left a mark on his back just now, and he didn't know what it would do. Although the fatty used the snow godly way, the godly ways were changeable and many people could use all kinds of thirgy beyond way. The scene in front of him was really strange. Chapter 1859, Snow Divine Spear. The fat man swung the long stick in his hand. Its tip began to glow a blue light as another frost mark, much like the one on Zen's back, appeared on it. I'm coming again. Are you ready? The fatty laughed, his chubby cheeks and double chin shaking. As Zen's ranking had improved drastically in the Hall of True Gods, he estimated that he wouldn't encounter too many difficulties at this stage. However, after meeting this fat man, Zen figured he should probably stop underestimating his enemy. As soon as the fatty finished speaking, he waved the long stick he held wildly and charged towards Zen like a raging bull. To Zen's mild surprise, the man stopped about a foot from him and turned into a flurry of snowflakes. Behind me again, Zen turned around and launched a punch without hesitation. Unfortunately, he guessed wrong again. The snowflakes behind him had condensed into the fatty who didn't waste time in hitting Zen's back with his stick. Dong! Zen's back now had two frost marks overlapping like a tattoo. I heard you are strong and that you have a special body protection treasure. With my current strength, it'll be quite difficult to kill you, the fat man admitted before turning into a pile of snow that melted as soon as it appeared. 100 feet from Zen, a flurry of snowflakes turned into the fat man once again. The fatty tilted his head. But there are many different ways to kill people. I'm sure I can use another way. Then, he waved his stick again and stomped heavily on the ice. Splash! 6 piles of snow suddenly appeared around Zen. Break them all! Quick to react, Zen spun his arms in all directions like wheels, causing an invisible force to leave his body and blow the snow away. However, the snow collected in the air and morphed into several fatties, all charging at Zen. Zen immediately felt a headache seeing this scene. This fatty's bodily movement skill was too weird. It was impossible for a low-rank true god to move in a flash, but Zen was unable to recognize which fatty was real and which ones were fake. More importantly, the fatty's clones were made of real snowflakes and not just virtual shadows. Seeing the 6 fatties pouncing on him, Zen threw 6 punches in a flash. Crack, 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 he succeeded in punching all the 6 fatties. But the moment he destroyed all 6 snowmen, Zen felt a faint force behind him. Dong! The long stick hit Zen's back and left yet another frost mark. 3 frost marks won't be enough. While you're just a proven godly warrior, your comprehensive ability is much greater than that of an ordinary low-ranked true god, said the fatty. To defeat you, I'll need 4 frost marks. The fear Zen felt was even greater now. He didn't want the 10 consecutive wins he had accumulated through hard work to come to an end. If the frost marks were to explode, Zen had no idea whether he'd be able to resist it. But he didn't want to take the risk, so he rushed over to the fatty while he spoke. Watching Zen run towards him, the fat man opened his arms as if he was trying for a hug. As Zen's fist made contact with the fatty, a strange smile suddenly appeared on Zen's face. "It's not the real you," he said before turning to the other direction. Zen had guessed that the fat man in front of him was just a pile of snow. Pulling back his arm, Zen threw his fist as hard as he could and punched. "It's here." Puff. Unfortunately, there was nothing but the void. Zen scowled as he heard the fatty's voice behind him. "Nice try, but sadly, you guessed wrong again." Then, Zen felt a light tap on his back. His eyes widened. The 4th frost mark had been made. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The snowflakes were still falling. The fatty's voice was heard from a distance. "You're not as powerful as I've heard. Recently, everyone's been talking about how powerful the anonymous man is, and some people even predicted that you'd win 20 consecutive battles. I never imagined you were this weak. This battle, I will be the winner." He then reached out his fat hands to frame Zen within his fingers, a glimmer of excitement flashing in his eyes. "In fact, I haven't seen a spear with 4 layers of snow marks in a long time, because normally, my opponents would have already been defeated before I could even launch a 4th one." As he said this, the frost marks on Zen's back shone faintly. A huge snowflake pattern which probably contained some kind of powerful attack appeared not far behind Zen. Whoosh! A light blue ice spear shot out from it and zoomed towards Zen at lightning speed. It was so fast that Zen could not dodge at all. Bang! Fortunately, the power of this snow divine spear was not that terrifying. Even if Zen couldn't dodge, his body was able to bear the force. So the rumor is true. Your body really is much stronger than those monsters. Usually, a low-ranked true god will be injured after facing the first layer of the snow divine spear, the fat man mused. The second snow divine spear. Whoosh! A second icy spear shot out of the huge snowflake. This icy spear seemed purer and stronger than the first one. It was azure blue, as beautiful as the sky, and contained a strong killing intent. By this time, Zen had already understood that the latter snow divine spear would be stronger than the former one. Realizing this, Zen immediately shot an invisible long sword towards the second icy spear. Strangely, Zen's long sword passed through the snow divine spear as if it didn't exist and Zen was unable to block it. Bang! The second icy spear hit Zen's body. Although the redemption armor protected his body, the impact of the second icy spear spread on his body and made his blood roll. Luckily, Zen was still able to withstand it. "Not bad. Your clothes are truly something. It should have blocked most of the power, right?" The fatty chuckled. Whoosh! As fatty talked, the third snow divine spear shot from the snowflake pattern again. This snow divine spear had turned a blue-black color, and the tip of the icy spear rotated with flowing light continuously. Bang! Zen tried his best to dodge but failed, the third icy spear hitting him. Shards of ice fell everywhere. Zen slid down the icy ground and spat a lot of blood. The powerful force spread through his body, injuring his internal organs. What tenacity indeed! The fatty clicked his tongue twice and shook his head. "With the 4th spear, I shall end your life." The fat man only cultivated to the 4th level of the snow divine spear, which was the 3rd beyond the snow godly way. After defending his opponent, he only needed to leave 3 frost marks on his opponent with the mystical snow steps, then the battle would be as good as over. However, there were just some monsters who were too stubborn to die. The fatty had once fought with Pascal, and Pascal also withstood the first 2 spears. The 3rd spear was the most lethal one, but since Pascal managed to dodge it, the fatty had lost the battle. This time, the fatty had prepared 4 spears and he really took Zen seriously. Whoosh! The 4th snow divine spear shot out of the snowflake pattern. However, unlike the previous ones, this spear was completely black. Those who forced the fatty to show the 4th snow divine spear all lost pathetically. Chapter 1860, Moon Clan. When Zen saw the black snow divine spear, his eyes quickly narrowed into slits. He knew that each snow divine spear was more powerful than the last one, so he guessed that the 4th one could seriously injure, or kill him even. However, he couldn't fully stop the snow divine spear, he could only resist it with his body. Whoosh! A faint tinge of regret flashed across the fat man's face as the snow divine spear flew ahead. This battle is still too easy. You may die now, anonymous man, he lamented. Despite his sad voice, his eyes hid a bit of mirth. He was confident that Zen would surely die after the black spear was fired. At that same moment, Zen focused and immediately retreated backwards, his hands blocking his chest. His whole body flew and slid across the ice a little too closely. But the black snow divine spear was incredibly fast, that it shot towards him in almost a blink of an eye. 8 smoky melodies. At Zen's command, a faint white mist flickered over the surface of his body. The 8 smoky melodies was an ingenious attack, but its ability to move swiftly had a huge limitation. Any opponent who was fast enough could easily break it. After all, Gus had only aimed at the opponents Zen would face in the universe when he had recommended the cultivation method, but hadn't thought of the current situation. Now, Zen had used the 8 smoky melodies, but not to escape from the snow divine spear itself. Rather, the 8 smoky melodies pushed him away and weakened the spear's power when it got too close to him. Whoosh! However, Zen didn't have much time left to deal with the snow divine spear since it had appeared. It had only taken 1,000th of a blink of an eye in ordinary people's eyes, and he had already made all his preparations. Boom! The moment the snow divine spear hit his arms, the power in his limbs exploded. Even though his bones were as strong as a supreme primordial weapon, his arms had to bear the power of the snow divine spear as well as his own strength. Thus, his arms immediately cracked open at the impact of the 2 great forces combined. Bang! Zen paid the price with his arms, but the momentum of the snow divine spear only decreased slightly. Moreover, it attacked his chest in the next moment despite the redemption armor acting as a barrier. The soft redemption armor was indestructible and could even weaken a huge chunk of the snow divine spear's power. However, the spear's violent penetrating force still pierced through it and entered his internal organs. Crack, 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 there were several audible cracks, and his chest was torn with his ribs broken as well. He could even see his heart beating if he tried to bow his head. Tisk, tisk, tisk. You do deserve to be the man with 10 consecutive wins. You are still alive, the fat man exclaimed. He shook his head with a sigh, then continued, I've made my ranking fall several 100,000 places down on purpose just to fight you. I must say, it's really worth the trip. I can't believe that you survived my 4th spear. Tell me your name, our Moon clan likes powerful warriors like you. No matter which clan you're from, we'll do our best to get you. What do you think? Meanwhile, Zen was sprawled on the ground as his chest constantly heaved up and down. Every time his chest compressed his lung, blood spurted out from it. He gasped shakily and asked, You lowered your own ranking on purpose to come here? Yes, I was originally in the top 20. Ha ha, the fat man shrugged and said. The Moon clan, what is your clan's ranking? Zen asked curiously. Although his chest was torn apart, he thought about the matter deeply. He racked his brain for anything, but he had never heard of this clan. However, the fat man just stared at him with eyes as wide as saucers and said, You really haven't heard of our Moon clan. Our clan ranks 3rd in the floating islands. No wonder the fat man was speechless at his response. Zen had only been to the floating islands for a short period of time. After that, he was whisked off to the Purple Soul Hall and began to fight in the Arena of Legends, all before he could even know more about the floating islands. Therefore, he didn't have a complete understanding of the top 10 clans. Before the new ranking of the floating islands came, all the wealthy clans had encouraged their disciples to try their best to earn points. Only 3 clans weren't interested: the Moon clan, the Sword clan, and the Dongfang clan. Though all the clans on the floating islands from the 4th ranked one, the Leng clan, to the last one had holy beings, they were still ordinary wealthy clans in general. In other words, their structure was no different from an ordinary clan. They shared the same clan name and naturally worked under the same roof. Yet, things were different in the top 3 clans. The name Moon wasn't originally a surname, but just an appellation which eventually became a surname after a long time. Furthermore, the Moon clan actually consisted of 4 wealthy clans, but later on had been integrated into one. Their original surnames were also insignificant, so in the end, they were called the Moon clan. The disciples of the Moon clan didn't value the points in the Arena of Legends, because the top 3 clans had way more consummate true gods than the ordinary wealthy clans. Usually, they only needed to collect their points a few times at a crucial time, but their points would still be far more than those of the 4th clan, the Leng clan. As time went by, the ordinary wealthy clans grew too lazy to compete with the top 3 of the floating islands. After all, they couldn't win the seat anyway. After some time, Moon had noticed that there was an anonymous man who had participated in battles challenging higher-level warriors. He was very curious, but his own ranking was much higher than that of this anonymous man, who was Zen in reality. Thus, he had to lower his ranking in order to challenge Zen. It was immensely grueling to raise one's ranking in the Hall of True Gods, but very easy to lower it. It could be done by simply admitting defeat in every battle. Thus, Moore's ranking dropped hundreds of thousands of places from the 17th, until he finally met Zen. There had been a time when his ranking was accidentally more than 10,000 places lower than Zen's, as Zen's ranking had gone up too fast. Thus, he had no choice but to defeat two warriors to rise up a bit. He had exerted efforts to get closer to Zen's ranking, but Zen suddenly did not go out of his room at all and refused to accept the challenges. Moore had been depressed to death. This time, he had finally seen Zen open the door. How could he let this opportunity slip through his fingers? He wasted no time. He immediately said his price and challenged Zen. No wonder, Zen said with a smile. I really didn't expect that someone would lower their rank to challenge me. It was known that Moore was strong and one of the best low-rank true gods. In addition, he had thoroughly studied Zen's fighting style and strength. Zen had underestimated him in the beginning, but he was the one who got seriously injured in the end. Just accept your failure and join our Moon Clan. We will offer the best treatment, no matter which clan you come from, Moore stated with a smug smile. He was not interested in points at all, what he liked was the fighting process. A tiny stream of blood flowed from Zen's lung, then he spoke. Why should I accept my failure? Do you think I will lose? He asked curiously. Needless to say, Moore was shocked. Do you think you still have a chance? He asked. Chance, isn't it always there? Zen said calmly. What do you mean? A small smile tugged at the corner of Zen's lips. Look behind you. Moore did as he was told and saw a circle. Just as Zen had retreated a few seconds ago, he had left an oval imprint in the ice. Moore was still confused over his words. As soon as Zen had finished speaking, an icy blue flame suddenly combusted and rapidly spread around the circle. Splash! The ice soul flame started to burn fierily, then it enveloped Zen and Moore. You truly have strange tactics. Even until now I can't find where your real body is, but I think it must be in this circle, said Zen. If so, then I just need to freeze everything in this circle, he finished. This is, Moore uttered in shock when he saw the icy blue flames. This is the ice soul flame. And it is complete. How could you possibly fully comprehend Holy J's ice soul flame? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The ice soul flame had spread at an extremely fast speed. It had already filled the whole circle in just a blink of an eye. Zen didn't answer Moore's question. The ice soul flame could have a stronger effect in the land of extreme chillness, but at least, the speed at which the flames had spread was still beyond his expectation. However, Moore wasn't willing to lose to Zen. His fat body dodged the ice soul flame that constantly licked at him and occasionally turned into a pile of snowflakes, then back to normal again. Finally, Zen saw a fat man in an ice armor, who rolled on the ground before the ice soul flame froze him completely. This one should be his real body, right? Zen thought.